Progressive presents The Sounds of the Old World. The year is 2019, and someone is waiting for a table at a restaurant.
Thompson, party of four. Thompson, party of four. Thompson, party... Oh, there you are.
This has been The Sounds of the Old World. Brought to you by Progressive, where drivers can still switch and save like it's 2019.
Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hi, friend. It's your home speaking, and I need some favors. Could you turn on some of the lights in the basement? I'm scared of the dark. Also, this one is easy. Could you bundle your home and car insurance with Geico so we could save money? Last thing, just a suggestion. Could you steam clean the carpets? I need a spa day.
Geico. For bundling made easy, go to geico.com today.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. From Asthmacore Studios near Detroit, Michigan, it's Unregimented.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
And now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome back to Unregimented. This is show number 212. If you're a longtime listener of the show, you may remember Todd, who used to join us on the early episodes. It's been a few years since we talked to him, and he checks in with us. We had a lot to talk about. We jumped right into the conversation. So you'll hear myself, Aaron, and Rich talking with Todd at the top of the show. About 45 minutes in, I think Chris joins us. And it's a very interesting conversation, so I'll just get right into that. Well, what are we going to do tonight anyway? Anyone?
Well, I figured we could watch some porn.
Yeah.
I don't know. Reason what I kind of was the reason I wanted to sit in was I haven't talked to you yet. I've talked to both Rich and Chris, I guess. So
yeah.
There's a whole long story behind this. We can get into that at some point. But the reason I wanted to sit in with you guys, I'm flying to Columbia on Saturday, and I guess long story short, to kind of get to the point, I've been kind of listening into your guys' podcast since I guess the end of September. And you guys are going in the same direction that I am with a lot of things, especially as far as the internet goes, social media, and the effects that it's having on us as a whole.
Yeah, I want to get more into that too, because
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'm not going to probably do too much. Obviously the political stuff with Trump and all that, I can dabble with that. But as from where I sit, from my perspective, everything that's happening politically, I think is driven by what's happening online, social media-wise. We haven't talked in a long time. I mean, it's been a real process getting here, but I've sort of I'm about to wipe the rest of my social media footprint clean. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I'm doing photography, not on Instagram, and I have nobody in my Facebook friends list anymore. Just simply because of, like I said, it's been a real long process. But I think that putting politics as the primary issue these days, I think is a mistake. I think the horse that goes in front of that cart is social media and how we're sort of devolving to sort of reflecting that rather than driving it. So that's okay. Kind of where I'm at. We can tinker around with Trump and all that other stuff, but I may get to the point where I just sort of let you guys handle the rest of that if you want to go that route.
I'm down for whatever. I mean,
yeah.
There's always plenty of stuff to talk about in politics, but nothing really new this week. Nothing that earth-shattering.
No, there is actually. You saw Flynn, right?
Well, yes. There is the idea that there isn't going to be some kind of secret deal between Flynn and Trump. That Flynn's going to cooperate and Trump's not going to support him.
Yeah.
And
I'm really interested to see. This is where I will go on the politics end tonight. If you want to go there, the idea that once Trump's impeached, that we're going to wash our hands clean of this experience. The thing is, what keeps running through my head after watching everything that's happened over the last 10 years or so, is that even if he is impeached, let's pretend, for instance, that this Flynn thing is a big deal. He's going to cooperate with the investigation, and there's an impeachment maybe in 6 months, okay? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that half of the country, that his base, the Republican base, is going to just roll over and say, golly, we fucked up. Boy, I sure wish we hadn't voted for Mr. Trump. These Democrats and these liberals were right. How do you think what do you think is going to happen once he is impeached?
More proof of the deep state in action.
Exactly.
That's all you're going to get out of this.
Yeah, and it's going to get worse because they're going to see this as a coup d'etat.
Yep.
And
then you'll have Trump will be a martyr if he's forcibly removed from office.
Exactly.
He'll start a social media and news steamroller that will just take everyone with him.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to see this as, like I said, a coup. And I've sort of, before the election, I was thinking, like everybody else, I let myself believe that Clinton was going to win the election. And what I was predicting about that time was that when she did win the election, that all the people who sort of like the real hardcore Trump supporters, the real anti-Democrats, I don't know however you want to phrase it, but that they were going to probably start some sort of insurrection. That it's gotten that far to the point where anybody who wins, the other side is going to see them as evil and sort of taking the country away from them. You know what I mean? And these guys are, the thing that terrifies me about the scenario is that they're armed. And that they think that they're fighting the patriotic religious fight, Mm-hmm. And you take him out of office now, you give them the joy of the election, like they've taken the country back, right? And then a year in, you depose him. How do you? I can't get past how this is a positive solution. How it's going to nothing. There is no solution here. That's the thing that really terrifies me about this, because you can not you specifically, but the liberals and the Democrats can fight this fight and they can win the perceived battle. But I don't think they've thought through what's going to happen when they do.
Yeah.
That's fucking frightening to me, anyway. So
they're going to be just like Trump on an election night last year. He's like, oh, fuck, what now?
Yeah. Yeah. And the divides, it's just going to get worse. The gap between the and the risen extreme right is just going to widen. The people in the middle are going to be, there's going to be a chasm in the middle that anybody who's sensible and isn't applying themselves or isn't sort of joining either one of these extremist churches, these fundamentalist churches, as I've come to call them in the last year or so, they're going to fall into this chasm, or they're going to be sucked into this black hole of extremism. Like if you nudge yourself a little bit to the left, you're going to be sucked into the Green Tea Party. And if you nudge yourself a little bit to the right, well, you've got to join the Trumpist movement. There is no fucking solution here, man. There is no political messiah. There is no coming of political Jesus here. I mean, we have gotten to the point, I think, where it's like two mobs, that are slowly getting to the point where they're gonna attack each other. It has to happen that way. I asked Rich this last week when we talked on the phone. I don't see a solution here. I don't see it may probably not going to happen this year. It happen next year. You there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You dropped out there.
Yeah, I heard something beep at me. That was weird. So anyway, that's kind of where I've kind of gone. I've tried to excommunicate myself from. We can get into the history of all this during the show, I guess, but I'm not. Last time we chatted, I was pretty anti, I don't know, fascist or whatever it was back in 2014, and I was pretty firmly entrenched in Camp Liberal. I no longer am. I have refound my libertarian roots because the Green Tea Party is just as bad as the original version, and I just can't advocate for them anymore. So,
yeah, I hear you.
I mean, but I don't know, man. I look at it this way. I haven't changed really my political views
Yeah.
I feel like the left has abandoned people like me. I didn't walk away from the left.
Well,
because I won't play the everybody who disagrees with me is Hitler game, and I refuse to play the to see one party as almost like a Catholic versus Protestant version of
That's exactly what it is. Yeah,
I'm not gonna join the fucking liberal IRA, and I'm not gonna join the fucking
No, you don't. You know what it's become? It's almost like living in the Middle East now. Say you live in you're either in Gaza or wherever it is, and you're neither Muslim or Jewish. How the fuck are you supposed to exist? How is it you're supposed to get by? You don't have a camp anymore. And you're exactly right. They left you, dude. You didn't leave. And this is what happened to me. And I feel like I'm sucking the oxygen out of the room here. I'll shut up after this. But what happened to me was, what's that?
Don't let us stop you.
Oh, I thought you said something.
No,
there was.
But actually, real quick though, I'm just going to slap an intro on the top of this, and let's just keep going. This is all show.
Well, no, let's. This is. I was talking to Rich about this. It's not a bad idea to kind of get. It's like a rehearsal. You know what I mean? You guys are musicians. That's how you tighten your shit up. You rehearse it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's not a bad idea to do this. At least as far as this goes. But the one thing I wanted to say was that what I noticed happened to me was that I had a really strong reaction to the Tea Party. Back 7-8 years ago when they first slithered out of the swamp, right? And what happened with me was that in reaction to that, I found myself caught in this thing that I called the ideological riptide, where I joined up with these guys to fight that, but slowly over time found myself sliding further and further and further and further to the left. I didn't realize it until about March of this year. And that's when I realized how far I had gone. And once I could figure that 6 months to actually do it, I actually found myself back right where I was before the Tea Party came along, and that was right basically in the center of libertarianism, And I think a lot of people, when you're talking, the reason I mentioned that is what you were talking about, Rich. You didn't leave. You didn't get caught in that riptide. I did, and I think a lot of other people have gotten caught in that as well and just don't realize it. There's this conditioning, I think, that goes along when you're fighting the bad guys, who you perceive as bad guys. These were fascists 10 years ago, right? But all of a sudden, you've joined this almost pseudo-communist mob. You don't even realize it.
I think Rich, we've talked about this before, and I definitely agree with that concept of the fact that we haven't really changed that much. It's these movements that are shifting around us, but I think it's true to say also that it does shift you somewhat. It's not a clean break. Like, I just realized that I was actually starting to go along with some crazy ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you don't stop and analyze your own behavior and go, wait a minute, what does all this stuff really mean? Like, why am I upset about X subject that doesn't really affect me? What does it mean in the bigger picture? And then when you have to kind of recenter yourself and understand where you fit into a political party, not what does it make you because you say you're a liberal or a conservative or even a libertarian or anything.
Right.
You have to think beyond the labels that you're applying, not even to other people, but to yourself.
Yeah, and part of the problem is it's a binary choice. You have to either choose Trump or you have to choose Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders now.
That's what's being presented to us. It's not truly a binary choice, but
what's the alternative?
If you don't accept it, then you're having one or the other applied to you.
If you want to participate in the process, though, you have to choose one of those two. You could have went out and written in. A lot of people voted for Jill the Vulture Stein last year because sure as hell weren't voting for Trump, but she didn't have an actual chance at actually winning that election. Her presence didn't mean anything, so your vote didn't mean anything if you voted for Jill Stein. So you had a binary choice between Trump and Clinton last year. And what if you don't? What if you don't fall into either one of those camps? And what if you don't fall into the rapidly radicalizing extreme ends of the spectrum? And that's where we're headed. It's a fucking problem. Because people like Rich and I are probably pretty close on the political spectrum. You're a little further to the left, but you're certainly not as far left as the Green Tea Party is, I don't think, at this point, from what I've heard anyway. So what are you supposed to fucking do? If you really want to participate? I have no idea. There isn't any option. You have to choose one of these two binary choices to really have a voice anymore, or you just waste it.
Mm-hmm.
See, but then again, I think this is exactly what the people who want us at each other's throats. This is the perfect opportunity for them to take advantage of. And what's sad is I don't think this is some great conspiracy from up high or Russia or China or whoever the fuck. I just think this is pure fuckery, and you see people, opportunists, taking advantage of it, and we're doing it to ourselves. That's the whole thing that opened my eyes. I told you this, Todd. The whole thing that opened my eyes to this was, like, it was 4 or 5 shows in with you guys, and you brought up Gamergate, Aaron, and I had no idea what the fuck Gamergate was. So after that show, I went home and I started, researching it. And it's kind of when the floodgates open, and they've been fucking, stuck open ever since, because I had no idea how deeply into identity politics both sides were fucking dipping their toes. And it was just the fringes. Yeah. It was just the fringes at that point 3 years ago. Now it's become almost mainstream, and I see the people on the fringe are slowly chewing away towards the center. And Aaron and Chris and I have discussed it before. The option to abstain from the fringes isn't even there, because you're going to be told what side you're on by the people going, make a choice. And if you go, I'm not with either of you, then to the right, you're on the left, and to the left,
well, then you don't. Well, it's either that or you can't complain then. It's like it's like choosing between emphysema and cancer. If you choose neither, well, you don't have a choice. You can't piss and moan about it. Well, fact, or if you're not in Camp Bernie, then you're a Nazi. And if you're not a Nazi, or you're not in Trump's camp, then you're some communist socialist pig, right? A commie sympathizer or something that hates America. You're not. It's exactly like you said. It's chosen for you by mutual exclusion, I suppose. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand how. I do understand actually how we got here. That's the problem, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I keep asking this question. I ask it of everyone that I talk politics to anymore. Show me a solution here. Show me how we're able to walk this back. Show me any indication. Show me one indication anywhere that there is a viable solution out there that doesn't involve blood running through the streets.
Well, I hate to say it, but I've kind of come to that to that conclusion about 3-4 months ago. I mean, I say it and people laugh, and then they take a look at my face and they realize I'm not joking, and they stop laughing, and they're like, because I say, hey, roll out the guillotines. Yeah. After we throw a couple of heads in the crowd, after we start throwing some heads in the crowd to play kickball with, trust me, the rest of those motherfuckers will either fall in line, or we're going to have a couple more kickballs in the crowd. I'm not at this point. I have no fucking loyalty to the government. The government has no loyalty to me. They're not of us. They're not for us. Money buys their votes. They only give a shit about us every 4 years whenever the election cycle comes up.
Did you lose me?
No, you're there.
Yeah, no, what's going on? Are we having some technical problems?
I'm back.
Hello?
Hello, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Just farted.
Did you drop out for a second?
Yeah, it said my connection was poor.
Oh, okay.
But I'm back now. So everything looks good. I want to make sure. Yeah, I got 3 bars and I'm on, I'm good. Okay, weird. It was just getting going too, man. God damn it.
Yeah, what were you saying, Rich?
Well, no, it's just there's really excuse me. The only time politicians give a fuck about the quote unquote average person, Joe Sixpack, however you want to put it, is when they need the validation of their vote to stay in power. I mean, it's just like I was talking about something as small. I mean, it's a small example, but if it happens with something like the city clerk in Detroit, where 14,000 votes turn up missing, and the person who lost by less than 1,400 votes turn up missing, the person who lost by less than 1,400 asked for a recount, and the sitting city clerk who handles the votes in the city of Detroit goes, "Oh, you're never going to find those 1,400 votes."
Yeah.
I mean, that's gangster shit.
Yeah.
That's serious. That is, we don't even give a fuck anymore. We're just rigging the shit, and you're going to put up with it because why? You don't care enough to do anything. And the only thing that's really good, the only solution I can even begin to see is people are going to have to get highly, highly uncomfortable. I'm talking all the creature comforts that we take for granted start becoming luxuries. I mean, look at, I've seen people who are, for the most part, apolitical start fucking throwing shit fits online over this net neutrality shit. And I'm like, good. Get pissed off. You should have been pissed off a couple of years ago. You should have been pissed off this entire time. You shouldn't have been satisfied with your bullshit and your fucking Real Housewives of whatever city and This Is Us and all, whatever bullshit fucking TV show and news channel you choose to root for. Well, you should have been pissed off that you have to. Why are we rooting for news? Why are we treating news like sports? Pick a team, get your favorite players, root for them no matter what.
There's
That's
a
not
word
how
for
news
that, Rich.
works.
It's tribalism. That's encoded in our DNA, dude. That we have to be part of a group that's better than someone else.
I mean, I understand.
It's everywhere. You can look at it throughout religion. You can look at your damn sports teams. Oh, I root for Michigan. Oh, you pussies that root for Michigan State. Blah 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 blah. Tribalism is still in the ape DNA, and it's still a really powerful sort of human drive at this point. And people like to. I've actually come to the point, guys, where I've started to sort of have some fun with the presupposition that human beings are good. You know what I mean? Everybody seems to come from that assumed point of view that people are decent and we're noble little critters on our way to Star Trek and all that. I don't know necessarily that I buy that. And that tribalism thing that Rich was just talking about. Why do people do that? I think it's almost a road that is almost inevitable that's going to be walked at some point. Where you're going to divide yourselves up into some group where you're all wearing the same, like George Carlin said, you're all wearing the same little hats. And you've got to fight with somebody who's wearing different hats just to prove you're better than them or you're superior to them. It's the one thing that you can look at throughout, I mean, all the way throughout history that it's a common thread. And you can look at it right down to high school sports.
Can I back up for a second here, because I'm interested in what we're really talking about when you say that change isn't going to happen without violence. I'm not both of you said versions of that, and I mean, if we're talking about a revolution, well, that's certainly factually correct. No revolution has happened without blood being spilled. No,
I'm not talking about a revolution, though.
Okay, so what are we talking about then? I mean, are we talking about the idea that the system that we have, the capitalist-controlled democracy, is not a sustainable system?
No, I think that I can answer that question. I think I can answer that question anyway, and it's something that I talked to Rich about, and I actually mentioned it to Chris today. I kind of wish he was here. There's this. You ever heard of Thomas Hobbes? He's a philosopher guy.
Right. I only know the name. I couldn't tell you anything about him, but enlighten me.
I think, and I may be mistaken on this, and I'm sure somebody will tell me if I am, but I think he's one of the principal philosophers that influenced Karl Marx. And one of his baseline philosophies was that human beings, without social training, without being trained apes, basically, if you were to leave human beings to what they really are, without giving them any kind of conditioning or anything, would tear each other to shreds, basically raping, killing, stealing, and just running amok. And I think that's where, when you ask where we're headed, I think that's kind of where I see it. I don't see this as a Republican-Democrat sort of thing necessarily. I see that as the sort of the fuse that is going to sort of ignite what I call, the road that's coming. I mentioned the Star Trek, the fancy little future that everybody likes to think is coming. I think it's The Road, the movie The Road, if you've seen it. And where to kind of take that a step further, I think that coming back to the social media thing, I think that what's happening on the internet and what's happening specifically on social media is tearing down what Hobbes was talking about with the social contract that keeps us, in a cooperative sort of state where we are willing to sacrifice certain things in order to get along, in order to peaceably coexist together. I think the internet is working to tear that down and take us to the point where we are just going to basically say, fuck you, I'm going to kill you. And I think politics, I think, is getting to the point soon enough where it's going to become the powder keg. I think that takes us there. It's not a revolution. We're not looking to change the political system. I think we're getting to the point where we just hate each other. We've dehumanized each other so much that if you don't agree with me, I'd rather kill you. I'd rather beat your fucking head in with a club than have a fucking conversation with you. And that evidence of that is everywhere if you look for it. So again, I ask, how in the fuck can anybody show me where I'm wrong? For the love of Christ, give me some hope here, because I don't see it anywhere.
Well, the acceleration of technology only points out the basic parts of our human nature that we haven't come to terms with. And I'm not just talking about social media or anything, or the internet or anything like that. Like any technology that we've used, when we first learned to control fire, it wasn't used responsibly, I'm sure. But eventually we adjust. But
it didn't have a global impact either.
It's true. I mean, I wonder if when you talk about tribalism and how it seems that social media is kind of pushing us back to a tribalist nature, I don't know. I mean, maybe when information didn't spread as fast, we could carve out our own little section of the earth and just feel like, well, yeah, there's other tribes out there, but that doesn't directly affect me. Mm-hmm. And now it's in your face constantly.
Yeah, but it's how people use the information. You see, and that's right. There's this thing I like, and I've heard you say this. I was actually waiting for you to say it here, where the technology is neutral, and the technology is not good or evil. It's how it's used, and it's a little, in my opinion. And I don't think so. I think that who Marshall. I'm sure you've heard the name Marshall McLuhan. He wrote Understanding Media back in the '60s. And there's a guy named Nicholas Carr that wrote a book called The Shallows that came out 7 years ago. It's actually slightly dated now, but it's the Marshall McLuhan is basically the Jesus of this field of study called media ecology, which is the gayest name I've ever heard probably of anything. But it's basically what I've been feasting on for the last year. I just learned this term like 10 days ago. But one of the principal things with McLuhan is, and he wrote Understanding Media back in the 1960s, is that I have the quote lying around here somewhere. I dug it up just for you because I knew I was going to field that. But it's basically it's in his opinion anyway, and I tend to agree with it, is that when you call technology neutral, that you're being a little short-sighted on it because you're not taking into account how it affects how you think and how you perceive the world. It's like an interface. You plug something into your computer, it changes how your computer works.
Yeah.
And the media, or the media in general, but I think that the internet specifically, for the point of our conversation, has done that to the degree never seen before in humanity, not even with Gutenberg. And people are completely unaware of how it's affecting how they think, how they perceive the world. You know, the electronic eyes thing. They think that's real. They think everything coming through Facebook in their news feed, is an accurate representation of what the world is. They don't understand that 99% of the stuff coming through there is an agenda. It's fact-based reality something or other based on an agenda to sell a point of view. But people are not that sophisticated. They don't see it that way. So they adopt whatever sort of viewpoint that makes them feel good, that'll reinforce their particular worldview, and think that they're seeing reality. So when you say that the technology is neutral, it's not. It's affecting how we actually think and how we interact and how we perceive each other. You know what I mean? It's not. I really would encourage you, Aaron, to dig that book up if you can find it.
I'm definitely interested.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And like I said, this was the understanding media thing is sort of the nexus. Like I said, it's like genesis of this whole media ecology topic. But Nicholas, I pointed the Shallows out to Rich a week ago, and that's more of a contemporary edition. It's focused directly on the internet, but they are both of these books are, one's the left hand, one's the right, because it really helps to see the effects that the technology is having on our minds and how we interact. Mm-hmm. And I think that everything, again, I will always come back to this as long as I'm on this show. That is what's driving everything, I think.
I guess, but when I say it's neutral, I mean, it's the same way that a drug like, say, heroin could be is neutral. Like, heroin doesn't have an agenda, and it doesn't
does when you're addicted to it.
Right, but that's a two-way street, you know. It doesn't automatically
just sit in a bag.
Infect everybody with addiction. It's if you lean into a certain type of behavior, it'll go down that path with you.
My only counter argument to that point, and it is a good point, I grant it, but my only counter argument is to look around. If you're going to put the example of the media, all you have to do is look at the world and look at how people are treating each other. I don't think that I think that the comparison, while I get it, I don't think that they are. I think it's false equivalency.
Well, let's look at what's happening with our social media right now. We're going through. All these people had to go in front of Congress and tell them about, oh yeah, I guess we did take some money for Russian ads, and we didn't really want to talk about it, but you know, and then make a big show of how we're going to do better. You know, we're going to do something. We have some plan to weed out or identify or help you navigate the news through your social media feed.
Yeah.
And all this really means is that you're going to get, you know, more censorship from whether it comes directly from what Facebook or Twitter decides, or whether it's ultimately the government that steps in and decides who they can take money from for advertising.
Ministry of Truth. Right.
Right. Now, my reaction to that is ultimately that there's nothing good that can come of that, and just let it be. Like, let whoever wants to pay for advertising on whatever social media platform, that's fine. That the ultimate answer isn't how to craft your social media so that it somehow has more truth coming through, which I don't know how you do that. Is the answer to just, rather than trying to educate people?
What if they don't want to be educated?
Well, there you go. I mean,
yeah, that's where we are, because people can do this now. People can go and they can fact check and they can do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. People don't want to use the internet that way. They don't want truth. They don't want facts. They want their worldview reinforced. And facts be damned. We've seen it. We've seen it all over the place. I did this, the Slithering podcast, or Slithering Fascism podcast. One of the last ones I did for you guys back in 2014. I was talking about this, and it's people don't give a shit about truth. They don't, and that's the problem. It's not social media. that's necessarily the evil culprit here. It's people and how they use it. Now, I know I just sounded like I contradicted myself, but it has released and given people the avenue to sort of tap into that sort of primal urge to tribalize themselves, and it's gone global. You see, the problem isn't the problem is people. The problem is that we are a seriously flawed creation, and we don't realize it. We think we are the divine little critter running around frolicking in the woodlands looking for little fucking walnuts of truth. We're not.
Okay, so if there's no faith in humanity, where do we go from there?
I'm not saying there's no faith in humanity. I just want somebody to fucking show it. And I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I know. I'm very rare do I not have an answer for something. But again, it comes back to the conversation that I was having with Rich last week. I have done a little bit more hitchhiking and all that in the last couple of years. And I was out in Phoenix last year, just before the election. It was actually on Halloween, and I went to a Halloween party with a friend of mine. And we're sitting there having some beers, and a couple of guys are sitting there chit-chatting. And all of a sudden, politics came up. One was a liberal guy, one was a Trump guy. And these guys who had been having these really nice conversations, I mean, it was very congenial and friendly and everything else. And as soon as fucking politics came up, man, they transformed into something else right before my eyes. Okay? And you could tell that neither one was listening to the other one. And while the other one was talking, each person was sitting there scanning their little cache of fucking Facebook posts, is what I call them, like these memes or maybe some sort of something recycled from something they read someplace else. And that's all they were throwing at each other. There was no conversation and no dialogue and nothing. And it reminded me of basically avatars. You know what I mean? Like the little characters, like that I guess that you create and sort of inject with your little virtual persona on the internet.
Not the blue guys who have the tail sex.
Maybe those two. I would have loved to have seen that instead of what I saw. That would have been great. But anyway, so it was a really sort of a seminal moment for me, because I know that I'd engaged in that, and this was shortly after this, what I call the digital detox started up. And I was kind of embarrassed for myself. I was really embarrassed for a liberal guy, because he's the guy that started it. You know, he had been listening to my travel stories and all this stuff, and he was obviously very clearly trying to show off his meme guns, as I called them. And it was just really embarrassing. I told him that as soon as Trump guy left, they didn't get in a fight. They almost did. But as soon as they parted company, I'm like, dude, what the fuck was that? You didn't do anything. Why the hell did you do that? And it was like, I know that I've done this too. Not necessarily so much in person, but goddamn it, I've done that. And so it triggered this idea in my head of these virtual avatars that we created, this e-personality. And when you take it out of the matrix and you place it in the desert of the real, it has really, really, really bad results. You see what I'm saying? Now, the point of the question you asked was, what do we do about this, or the future of humanity? The only thing that I can see, and this is what I'm kind of striving towards with this trip and moving into 2018, is I want to go out and see people in the flesh, organic human beings, with my own organic eyes, because the only thing that's going to save us is if the organic version of what we're dealing with is different from the avatar.
Are people
version.
to talk to people? Come on now.
Yeah, yeah. First, hi Chris.
Hi guys.
Good to see you. So yeah, that's the one thing that I can
what
think
if
of.
Technology has the answer to this, though? Like, okay, this is just dreaming. But what if, okay, the haptic technology and virtual reality is getting a lot better. And what if we get to the point where, because you're talking about the only thing that really affects change in people is essentially human contact, that we're not going to change our minds about. If somebody is racist against black people and they don't have any black people that they come in contact with in their everyday life, then they're going to, call people the N-word online without reservation. But if they find themselves in a circumstance where they have to talk to a black person like they are a human being and then realize that they are, and that there's not much that separates them other than skin color. There's really nothing. And that's the only way that you're going to change somebody's mind, right? But what if it's, the future is Ready Player One, and we have like this extremely immersive virtual technology that allows us to experience other things. So it's not even like, it's not about just befriending different people. Like, you could almost have the experience of what it's like to be somebody else.
People will not use it. They will not use it. They don't want to.
Maybe take longer to catch up with these things, but I think that...
Dude, no.
But
I don't think so.
Okay, but
it's like, what if we were all not idiots?
It's not like there's a way back. Unless you want to send off like an EMP that's going to destroy every electronic device and we just have to start over from scratch. There's no backing up in this vehicle.
Thank you.
The technology does not go in reverse, so the only answer is through. The only answer is
how's your relationship with the Second Amendment? Because no, there isn't any. And people, I love the optimism. I do. I like the idea of what you're talking about. And I think it would be wonderful if people were wired that way. But if one thing, and I'm glad you're here, Chris, because we talked about this earlier.
We're rewiring ourselves.
What's that?
But we are rewiring ourselves. That's what we're doing with technology. We're rewiring our brains, just the same way that we've modified our stomachs with the technology of fire. And so it's not a predictable thing. You can't necessarily say that based on prior behavior, I can predict what your future behavior is going to be, because you have an extreme variable in there.
Really? I find that extremely Pollyannic. I think you can. I think you can predict that, because I think we've seen it. And Chris and I were talking about this before, because you remember 25 years ago that with the advent of the internet, we have the greatest access to information the world has ever seen. This is the Gutenberg times a billion. We can do anything with all this information we want. And what do? We sequester ourselves off with happy facts, reinforcing our worldview. We download copious amounts of pornography, and we generally, flash pictures of dinner and kittens. We're not using that to bring ourselves together. We're using that to bring ourselves together, but in these mobs, these sequestered mobs that are ready to do war with each other. So I ask you, since you say you can't use past behavior as a predictive sort of thing for how we would use this, I don't understand how you can say that. Because
I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying it becomes more difficult to predict the farther down this road that we get.
I'm pretty confident in that prediction.
There's one thing I
really
give Aaron credit for is he still thinks we all don't suck.
I love that too.
I think that's not
I'm trying
true.
to get it, brother. I am.
How dare you have hope, Aaron? The audacity of hope, asshole.
Yeah. Listen, I'm trying to get there, and this is what I was talking about next year. Because what I need to do, what you were talking about human interaction. I actually have a term for that too. I put a lot of thought into this shit, guys. Believe it or not, I don't leave the house much. I just think, and I've called it human synapses. Because there's what we do when we connect online. We can connect with people online, obviously, but it's artificial. It's not real. It's simulated. But when you're actually looking at another human being, there's an exchange of something there that you don't get on the internet. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. It's different. I don't think that you can empirically say that one is better than the other. And okay, I'm going to go there. As we get closer to the singularity, we're going to redefine what it means to actually have a connection with somebody else.
What the fuck's the singularity?
We're going to have experiences. We'll have the ability to do things that will seem like telepathy, basically, the way that we can link together. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I just can't ultimately believe that, the human I'm not denying what you're saying about human contact and how there is a richer experience that can be gained from that we can't duplicate in a digital realm. That's a fact. But I think there's a different experience that we can have in a digital way that can be at the same level as a quote-unquote human contact experience. It's just a redefinition. It's not like, I don't see it as good or bad. I see it like as an inevitable and something that we're going to have to live with.
I see where you're coming from, and I have had those experiences where there have been people. There was a couple of people that I've met on the internet. I've never met them in person, and I have developed a decent relationship with them. There are many more, and in fact, I can count Mr. Chris. I can count more people that I've argued with on your Facebook friends list than people, and just yours, than people that I have forged that artificial connection with. So what I'm saying is, while that is possible, I think that the way people would rather create this no-account avatar where they can go out and they can just verbally and rhetorically punch someone in the face and run away than they would rather, much quicker than they would sit there and try to learn something about other cultures and other races. And just, to me, I think we have seen how people want to use this technology and what their inclination is. You know, there's it's part of the breakdown of the what I was talking about with Hobbes. You know, we've had several thousand years of a couple of 100,000 years of social evolution where we've learned to look people in the eye, we've learned to read body language, and we've learned how to temper what we say to someone because we don't want to really experience a fist to the mouth. That is completely being stripped away online, and I think
we're
to
babies
a
online still.
Yeah, but to an exponentially greater degree do we go in this negative way than I think we're inclined to go in the positive way that you're talking about. So when you say that, I'm not saying it's not possible. I understand what you're saying about we could use the technology that way. I just think the chances that we are ever going to get to that point or survive to that point, I think are nil. I really do.
I think it's a conscious decision that a lot of people refuse to make or take the easy way out to go, all right, I'm online. There's no physical consequences for what I do. Yeah. And they take it and they run with it instead of using it as an opportunity to have maybe a more open, honest discussion without the uncomfortableness of sitting across from someone discussing something that is making both people uncomfortable and having an honest conversation about it with the buffer of, okay, I don't have to worry about offending them and this and that. They purposely offend. This is how come, and I've said this and I mean this, and some people who really know me know it to be true, and a lot of other people think I'm bullshitting. I am much more agreeable online than I am offline. And that's a conscious choice and decision I make, because if I walk into the situation going, I can say anything I want to, I can do anything I want to, and there's nothing these people can do about it, then there's no discussion. My mind's already been fucking shut down to any type of new ideas being put in there, and I'm just going in there to raise hell. If I go in there and I treat people respectfully, it's funny, you can actually see in some of the exchanges I have, people just stop responding because they don't know what to do. They start going for the attacks, the personal attacks. They creep on your profile. Hey, you fat fuck, and all this shit. And I'm like, okay, well, that's nice. What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
The obvious, dipshit.
Yes. Thank you for pointing out something that everybody since fucking high school has pointed out. I'm fat. Great. Wonderful. Now, what does that have to do with what we're talking about? Nothing. And there's certain people who the word troll gets thrown around way too much. Anybody who says something that anybody else doesn't like is a troll these days. That's not a troll. Yeah. A troll is someone who purposely walks into a situation and does not. They are almost amoral. They have no fucking. They don't give a shit about any political stance. They don't give a shit about.
They're shit stir.
About right or wrong. Yes, exactly. They're there to stir the pot, and they're trying to make you lick. Yeah, and they're trying to make you lick the fucking spoon when they're done. And those type of people, the only way to deal with them is just to put them on a pay no mind list and get them out of your fucking to not deal with them. It's like a kid throwing a shit fit. If you feed into it, the shit fit's going to continue. The problem is someone's always going to feed into it on a big enough group of people online. Someone's always going to take the bait. So when I go in and I have these conversations with people, they really kind of, there's a level of attrition that happens organically by going in and actually having a decent, polite conversation. Because the people who are there to start shit go, well, this is boring. This isn't what I want. So they leave. And the people that are there just to fucking, okay, here's my stance. What's your stance? Okay, now I want to fucking argue and I want personal attacks. And you're a fucking libtard and you're a faggot, and all this shit. There's not enough fucking tension and fighting there to keep them there. So you whittle away all the bullshit and you will get someone who you can have a decent conversation with, even a debate. The problem is you have to go in willfully with a mindset of I'm going to do that and stick to it. And
let me ask you a question.
Just don't have don't have discipline.
Could you guess what the percentage is of people that you will find online who really, really, really want to have that sort of intellectual dialogue, that give and take with you?
Oh, what?
As opposed to the people who just, once they find a point of disagreement, just want to engage in some sort of warfare.
Yeah, but
just real quick to answer your question,
I'm sorry.
Just going by my experience, this is being very generous too. We're talking 2-3, maybe 3%.
I wouldn't even. Yeah, that's about where I was
generous.
thinking.
That's also people, going into groups where they're.
Okay, that may be just true of people, Aaron. So again, I take it back to I really want this hope you have. But if that's the case, if that's the percentage of people that want an honest dialogue and want to slowly move toward truth, I need to understand how you're getting there. You see what I mean?
Is it worth it for a small minority of the population? I guess is what Todd's getting at.
Not for me.
Well, okay, so
that's not what I'm getting at. Actually, what I'm getting at is. Go ahead.
I like a good debate. I like a good argument. Even if it's about things that are ultimately frivolous. And there's been a lot of times where I've offended people because they're like, why does Aaron have a problem with me? He's always arguing with me about stuff, and to me that's a compliment. That means that we can have a real conversation.
You care enough to try to talk.
Right. If your argument is to come back at me with, some canned answer of, you're triggered libtard or something, then the conversation's over. But if you're coming back with intelligent, interesting retorts, then it's going to go somewhere. It's rare to find those people just in real life. I don't think that there's anything about being online that makes a person different. It just makes them more willing to speak their mind.
See, I don't know if I buy into that, because
I don't.
And you're just as likely to find, the rarity of finding a person to have an intelligent conversation with online is just, it's the same chances as you would if you're just walking the street.
I guess I would counter. I'm trying to. What was it you were going to say, Rich? You said you disagree with something. I lost my train of thought there for a second. You had a retort on something.
Yeah, my brother is a perfect example of, I guess, what I run into a lot online. All right, my brother's 25, so we are just two completely separate generations of people, and he was raised in the zero tolerance for bullying and never hit anybody type environment in his schooling and all this shit, and he walks around constantly saying, oh, only idiots resort to violence, only Neanderthals resort to violence. But at the same time, you stick him online and he says the most vile, disgusting shit that comes to mind with people that he disagrees with in the slightest. And I've told him, I said, you understand that if you said this shit to his face with your punk ass, you'd had a set of dentures by the time you were 15, right? You understand that. Like, your jaw would have been wired shut multiple times by now. You hate violence because you're no good at it. You're good at talking shit, so you go run and hide behind a keyboard.
Yeah, you're a Navy SEAL when it comes to words.
Yeah, you know, and he gets pissed at that. He's like, oh, so because I'm not some knuckle dragging, mouth breathing, you know, evolutionary throwback, that it'll automatically resort to violence? I said, no, dude, it's not automatically resort to violence. The shit you say would provoke most people to fucking go, dude, if you don't shut up, I'm going to put your face to the fucking nearest wall. Like, you don't understand.
You know, there's a thing that I did remember what I was trying to get at, where people, since the internet's come along, people have been trying to reinvent themselves online from the very fucking beginning. I mean, you can go. I don't know if any of you guys. I've never done it, but if any of you guys have ever tried any dating sites, and
I heard that's
maybe you see.
I heard that's a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a thing, but you know, the sort of the projection that you see on the profile doesn't always match what you meet at the coffee shop for the first time. Usually, maybe sometimes it's a couple of 100 pounds off.
Come on,
right? It's a rumor. It's a rumor.
Come on.
So,
I have just real quick. I had a buddy get catfished all the way. He moved from
I don't
Tucson.
know what that means.
Means she used the upward angle. That's what that means nowadays.
Exactly. She only sent him headshots.
She hit her 4 other chins.
And it was always from a certain
but I'm the
angle.
guy that. But I'm the guy who always took one for the team and fucked her anyway. Whatever.
Yeah. But no, he actually moved from Tucson back here and blew off all his friends that he hadn't seen in a year and a half, and was like, made a beeline right for her house and got there. And it was like, he goes, dude, she opened the door, and he was like, oh, fuck, I have made a huge mistake.
Yeah. Did you eat the chick I was talking to?
And I told him, I said, what did you expect was going to fucking happen, dude? You're not meeting. Chris Rock has a bit about it, and it's no more truthful than online. You're not meeting that person, you're meeting the representative.
Exactly, and that's the point that I was trying to make with that
50
comparison.
Pounds
because
you can add 50 pounds
the human being, Aaron, may not change, but how that human being behaves and acts does change. And what I was another point that I made to Chris this afternoon is that it's only online, it's only on Facebook, and blah blah blah, which is fine. There is an element of truth to that, but the effects on both ends of the computer are real. It affects how people perceive and react to it, and how their sort of their perception of human beings is affected by that.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about direct effects of violence, of people that, you know, every time that we have now what is multiple times a year mass shootings, the first question a lot of people want to know is, who did he last vote for?
Exactly. The first thing they want to know, yeah.
What were this guy's politics? And which side can we place him on? Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about how, you know, what was it? The Las Vegas shooter had Antifa propaganda all around the room, supposedly.
Well, we saw the pictures.
And that he was radicalized
Alex Jones showed us the pictures,
organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, right? And so they are responsible for inciting this violence. I don't know. I don't know why I'm bringing it up.
Alex Jones.
Well, unless I guess what I'm honestly asking is there anything to that? Is there anything to the fact? Because that's kind of where I see you. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your point, but that's where I see you going with this. That you can have real world consequences from what looks like simple misbehavior on social media.
I can tell you, I've been on this podcast for 3 years. I seem to be the only guy and I get shouted down. I don't care, because whatever. We all have our own opinions. That's how it goes on this show. But I seem to be the only guy that. I'm the only person that seems to see a correlation between our society getting increasingly violent and like more violent video games and movies and TV and shit. And Like,
but we're not more violent. Not even with all these mass shootings are we more violent.
I can see it. But I can see it connecting with like what Todd is saying about how like when let's say you play Call of Duty 40 hours a week. Like, what's to say if you do that for like a year?
I think if you're prone to disassociate from the world around you in general, then yeah, you can use some violent video game as some sort of guidance for how to act in life, unfortunately. But you're a sick individual.
But it's just like when you're being an internet tough guy. It's when you don't have to look somebody in the eye.
Well, you actually just hit on it. When you're disassociating from the real world, this is what I was talking about with the human synapses and everything else. Mm-hmm. When you disassociated yourself from the real world and the only way that you perceive the world, which, you know, we could debate to what extent this actually happens, but when the only thing that you see is through electronic eyes, through the matrix projection of the world, how difficult is it to dehumanize someone? I don't think I'm taking video games out of this conversation because they've been talking about video games since I was a kid in the early 80s. I mean, I don't necessarily think
Pac-Man eat someone, you're going to eat someone, all right?
Yeah. Zaxxon made me violent as a kid.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very easy when you go online and there's no accountability and you don't have to deal with real world, like Rich was talking about, like getting your ass beat for some of the things you say to someone. And you get in these arguments and you have it coming back at you as well. You know, irrational comments and flaming and trolling and all this other stuff. How hard is it? And this is the thing that I think really, really, I mean, it gets to the core of what I was talking about, is how hard is it to dehumanize the other person? Right? And then how much of a step is it to, once you've dehumanized someone, to not see their life as being worth anything? You know, I agree. We're not nearly as violent as we used to be, Aaron. I mean, the statistics bear that out. But we've had, I think, the two biggest events of mass murder have occurred in the last 3 years, as far as firearms go.
Yeah.
So there, you can talk about
somewhere. That's what I'm saying.
Random murder or anything else, but there is an element, I think, to the being able to disassociate yourself from the real world, and what I call these human synapses, to taking the next step to dehumanize the people that you disagree with. So if you're an Antifa guy and you're looking to go out in a blaze of glory, he's 60 years old, maybe he's getting sick of, I think he was 60, I don't remember exactly, but he's getting older, he's maybe getting sick of life, he's an Antifa guy, and those motherfuckers down there listen to this country music concert, they're a bunch of fucking Trump bots, and they're this and this and this, they're not human anymore, fuck it, I'll just wipe them out and kill myself. How hard is it to dehumanize those people once you've disassociated yourself from it? And that's what I think's happening.
I just want to interject something real quick. There's also we have started to juke the stats in a big bad way by redefining terms to fit an agenda. Instead of letting the definition stand, we go, no, that's not what that means anymore. It means this. Why? Because I want it to mean this. Case in point, mass shootings.
Yeah.
When I hear mass shootings, I think of someone walking into a crowd and opening up. No. That's not what's defined as mass shootings by the watchdog groups and the anti-gun folks.
4 or more people. That is ridiculous.
3 or more. NPR just talked about this 2 days ago. 3 or more is what's considered a mass shooting now.
You want to take out your family at Thanksgiving. You just committed a mass shooting. Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like planting yourself on the top floor of the fucking whatever the fuck that was and mowing down people.
Mandalay Bay,
not
yeah.
the same.
Yeah. And it's the same. It's the same way that they've used the redefinition of words to weaponize. And this is coming mostly from the left. The people who go, words are weapons. Yeah, because you've weaponized them. Case in point, racism. Racism doesn't mean you think that one race is genetically superior to another race. Racism now means power plus majority equals racism. So only white people can be racist.
Yeah. Get
the fuck out my face with that shit. All right? That's called goalpost moving on a level that's ridiculous. And we allow it to happen because it turns, you get caught in a Kafka trap if you don't allow it to happen. If you say something and go, wait a minute, you're redefining words to what they don't mean, to support your agenda, then they go, well, you're racist. The minute you deny you're racist, that just reinforces to them that you're racist. Kafka wrote about this in the trial. This is nothing new. This is an old trap that's been used on people, and it's constantly used in psychology. Why are you angry? I'm not angry. You're in denial, which proves that you're angry. It's circular reasoning. And we've allowed it to become supposedly the basis for a debate these days and discussion.
It's not even a debate. That word now is the debate ender. That's what it's become the last 5 years. Is what you got?
Longer than that.
You got nothing left. Racist. And that's it.
Well, but the left used that against anybody who was had any problem with Obama. And it's been longer than 5 years. I mean, this goes all the way back to 2009 or 2008. Oh, you don't like Obamacare? You must be a racist.
2008. It's the second time I've heard that date today in historical significance.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's not necessarily about race as far as the redefinition of words. It's just the most blatant example of it. Besides, and I would say, and the only reason it popped in my head is because of the whole mass shooting thing. I'm like, wait a minute, 3 people's a mass shooting?
Well,
three people's a heated argument. That's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
3 people could possibly be a ricocheting bullet, depending how bad a shot you are.
You can take it a step further if you want to see something that's more contemporary.
Or a good shot.
That's something that's been sort of thrown up in our face in the last couple of years. Misogyny.
Yeah.
It's the argument ender. You must be a misogynist.
My penis.
All this. I've heard you guys talking a lot about the sexual harassment stuff, the charges of whatever.
Wait.
What's going to happen? I've come to look at this, and I don't really want to steer the conversation too far off this way. You guys can take it if you want, but I've looked at the last couple of months with this Me Too thing, with all these allegations coming forth. I've started to call it contemporary McCarthyism, because you don't need any sort of proof anymore to destroy a human being and have them blacklisted. And if you ask for it, if you say, can you prove this allegation? It's like, going back to the McCarthyism. Well, what are you soft on sexism?
Well, Jeremy Piven tried to make that point, and he's just getting shouted down even further. I mean,
McCarthyism.
He's a part of the allegations, but he brought up the point of, we're now in a society where, it used to be guilty to, I mean, I'm not quoting him directly. It used to be guilty to, or innocent to proven guilty. Now it's the opposite.
Yeah, but with this one thing, it is, yeah. And actually, I guess you could actually. I'm not defending Trump, but a lot of people have already convicted him. I asked Chris earlier today, when you again, to try to keep it. I'm not trying to go off on a tangent here, but to keep it where the rule of law being innocent until proven guilty is sort of going out the window, even as Trump goes, because as far as I know, nobody has ever named a statute of the law that President Trump has violated, even if he did collude with Putin.
Go, dude.
Where's the law? What's the statute?
You open that door. Have fun.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I've never, I understood the Watergate thing as far as break-ins and things, but what statute did he violate? Silence. I love it.
Well, dude,
there isn't.
Dude, you know where I'm at on this.
So good luck. Good luck with that. I mean, you may get all the proof you want, but if you can't prosecute him,
I'm saying this is
what I've been saying.
There's going to be no video of Putin writing him out a check. Like they're
even
never.
Even if suppose there is there a statute there? I guess a foreign campaign contribution. Okay.
It would have to be literally money exchanging hands for the service of hacking into
the bag with the dollar sign on it.
Protected files and leaking them to the press to make Hillary look bad and to make Trump look good. It would have to be something along those lines.
Trump is not a rocket scientist. He's not.
You know where I'm at. I think they're looking for something
they've
never found.
Yeah, I do.
But I mean, just to double back for a second, because I'm starting to see something and hear something that's amazing me when it comes to the latest, with the sexual harassment stuff. I'm hearing people I know, women I know, even men I know, who are like way hardcore feminists, and proudly carry that flag, go, okay, this is starting to get fucking ridiculous. Yeah. By these standards, dude, everybody has been has sexually harassed.
Jeffrey Tambor, probably one of the most progressive actors like ever. And he even said, I'm not going back. He actually came out and said, I'm not going back to this new crazy environment. Fuck you, I'm done.
The one that sticks out to me, and this is kind of what Aaron and I were talking about last week, and he's like, well, I'm not seeing it. And I said, I understand it's not happened yet, but give it a couple months. Once again, I underestimated how quick it would take. Pixar, John Lasseter at Pixar.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The accusations against him were unwanted sexual advances. When pressed for details, he hugged employees.
Oh, he's a hugger?
Oh, Jesus. Fucking Christ.
It was a weird hug, though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, unless I'm giving you a hug so tight and my dick is knocking on your clit, it ain't an inappropriate. I'm sorry. That's not enough to get an executive out of his office. And he is stuck in this, once again, this Kafka trap of, well, shit, I have to apologize. But what am I apologizing for? And
Stand
now,
up for yourself, motherfucker.
And now
take a testosterone shot.
NPR
Stand the fuck up. You know what I mean?
NPR, oh, no, I'm with you on that. NPR just 2 days ago had a apology expert on, which I laughed my balls off that someone collects a check on.
How do you listen to that shit?
Because it's better.
That was on NPR.
It's better than the music that's on the radio.
Buzzing.
Fair enough.
And my car is just old enough to where it's a pain in the ass to listen to like podcasts in it. So, but anyway,
can we take a quick break here so I can go pee and grab a smoke? Can we breathe for a second?
Yeah, I have to pee too.
Cool.
All right, cool. How's this going? You guys feeling good?
I'm on half hour in.
Yes.
Sure.
All right, good. Because me too.
You just rambled.
Feels good to be able to talk instead of typing shit. All right, I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
At this point.
Okay.
Oh, I just seen it in like a motherfucker.
You randled on in the middle.
Yeah,
like
you were just like all of a sudden,
conversation.
Wow, hey, another voice. But glad you made it. I thought maybe you would.
It's all right.
Okay, so NPR brings out this apology expert. Like I said, I want in on that racket. That's got to be easy money. And the apology
expert tomorrow.
It doesn't seem like it's rocket science, but most people don't do an apology right. So maybe we do need apology experts.
Did I do mine today, Chris? Was I okay today?
Okay. Is it apology expert as in expert in identifying apologies or an expert in helping somebody craft an apology?
She was an expert in dissecting apologies and saying, no matter what you said, this is what you really mean. And so I guess John Lasseter, this Pixar executive,
that's not even useful.
I guess this John Lasseter, this Pixar executive, who's been ordered to volunteer to take a leave of absence by Pixar.
Out of here. Really? The guy who gave us Toy Story?
Yeah. Well, hold on.
He gave other people creepy hugs.
Well, I guess
he said
Woody just seems weird as a name.
He said, I've apparently made missteps. And I'm like, in other words, he wants to say so badly, I gave fucking employees a hug. Fuck off. But he can't. So he has to go, I'm sorry if one of my missteps offended some people. And it's like, you know what? That's Jeremy Piven did something that was so fucking pimp. That motherfucker it makes me believe that he wasn't even acting when he was playing Ari Gold. He was just being himself. He come out and he goes, I didn't do this shit. And you know what? I'll take a fucking lie detector. I'll take a lie detector that anybody wants to give me.
See?
You go ahead and
that
fucking give it to me.
Straying into the territory of methinks one doth protest too much.
But hey, you notice that he's one of the few who's been accused who hasn't been forced out of his job situation.
Because that show's going to be canceled next season anyway.
I understand. Look, I understand that, and you can get as cynical as you want about it, but it's still the fact remains that a hug will get you removed from a position where you've made billions for a company at Pixar, and he's accused of basically not unwanted advances, of flat out sexual assault. I mean, right up to flirting with the line of.
They said
I guess there was no. I guess he stopped at any type of penetration, which would have made it, I guess, legally rape. So, but he walked right up to that line, according to the accusations. So, I mean, if you go, no, man, fuck this. I'm not going to fucking play this game. I'm not going to come out and put out the fucking pat apology. I'm not going to sit here and act like I did something wrong when I didn't. All right? And what's blowing my mind is the people I know who are just, I mean, hardcore feminists going, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Even I'm saying this is ridiculous. This is literally going into witch hunt territory now. Now it's taking the seriousness of women who have actually been sexually assaulted and raped and putting it on the level of late night monologue fire.
Did you guys talk about Charlie Rose yet? Did that blow your fucking mind?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, seemed kind of creepy.
Me neither.
Shows.
That blew my mind. I'm not sorry. I was like, I'm a cynical motherfucker, and I was like, wow, dude, you seem like you were just missionary for the last 60 years. And
have you ever watched his interviews, man? He looks like he's about 2 millimeters from fondling every female guest he's ever had on there.
That I did not see that coming. I will be completely honest.
Yeah,
Charlie Rose of all people.
I mean, I was shocked that his junk still worked well enough to, want
he pulled the nude move.
I don't know, harass somebody. I don't know how recent any of these were. I mean, I think the age thing is the one thing that sort of threw me. But
I can also see Charlie Rose as a nude move kind of guy. Like, hey, how's it going, I'm Charlie Rose? Now I'm nude.
Yeah, and no one wants to see that. Seriously, Charlie, put your clothes. Put your pants back on, white boy. No one wants to see that.
He was, he had an assistant or like a junior producer or something come to help him with notes for a show, and he was in the shower already calling for her, like, come in here. Just naked. Just,
I haven't read any of the details on this, and you're horrifying me.
Oh, no,
I don't want to. I don't need this image.
Dude, he pulled the nude move. Like, it was the nude move was,
He'd just walk into the room.
Like his number one on his bag of
What
tricks.
does celebrity do to people? I mean, you've got Harvey Weinstein and you've got this guy. What does celebrity do to you to see yourself in the mirror as something anyone wants to see?
We were all discussing previous
I don't
shows
get that. Between
about
those two guys.
Apparently, we're doing it wrong with not just walking up to a chick and jerking off.
Yeah, apparently. I think I cut out there. Sorry about that.
You've been there the whole time.
Oh, it said it reconnected.
It's a fucking liar.
Technology. So yeah, I just don't get it. You and I were in radio, Chris, and we worked together once upon a time. If you missed the backstory, and I keep thinking to myself, I don't really know if I really want to go off in this direction, but as far as this Me Too movement and this witch hunt, and everybody's a sexual predator now if you give anybody a hug, I don't know that liberals really want to go down this road, because I don't know of too many radio people, celebrity types, media types, who didn't try to use that celebrity at some point to get laid. You're gonna poach every single one of your sort of meat puppet avatars at some point if you're not careful. Al Franken. He's one of your rising stars in the Democratic Party, and you've basically just taken one of your rising stars and thrown him in the trash bin. I don't know how liberals are going to like this. I don't know that they're going to like the vacuum that they're going to create with this, and they're sure as hell not going to like whoever fills it. It's who's going to take Charlie Rose's place? You're going to have a journalist like Charlie Rose? I'm kind of anxious to see where that all leads and what's left. I guess after the what's left of the junk heap.
But who's going to kick it to
done.
Gail about the top 5 fashions for? I don't fucking know. Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, no, he was on CBS this morning. He had debased himself to doing a network morning show.
Okay. Oh, I have a neat story. Maybe I'll tell it off the air. When my hitchhiking over the summer, I went up around Lake Champlain and found myself in a truck stop in Vermont watching the Today Show, and almost got kicked out of the truck stop because I was yelling at Matt Lauer.
We're watching Kathy Lee and Hoda getting hammered.
Stupid mother! You know what he was doing? No, fuck it, I'll tell it. I'm sitting here. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. I just climbed out of my bivvy sack, and I just started, I plugged my shit in to charge my phone and all this other stuff, and I just hadn't had my coffee just quite yet, and I'm sitting here watching him, and he, I can't remember the sponsor, but he was using, like, the 100-year-olds. You know what I mean? People that were having their 100th birthday around the country, and it was like it wasn't Lipton. Who the fuck was it? It was some company, and they put their fucking faces like on a label for like honey or some shit. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting here, you stupid motherfuckers are using these 100-year-old motherfuckers to sell whatever the fuck it was. And it just so pissed me off because I'd been without television for a while and I'd become resensitized to it. You know what I mean? and it was such an over-the-top reaction to Matt Lauer that they were like coming back to like poke their head around the corner to make sure I wasn't ripping the TV off the wall or something.
Now, man. Like, for real.
Oh, it's terrible. I wish I could remember the sponsor of it.
I still 5 years into the job. I don't turn on the TV when I'm on the road. Yeah, I know, Rich. Ooh. But, yeah, no, it's when I come back and I see commercials or I watch like at ESPN or somehow I accidentally slip and put on a network news channel for a second. It's just overt, man.
Terrible.
Like whether it's the commercials or even in the delivery of the actual product.
Well, this is actually a nice segue, though, because I guess that is something you and I were talking about. I'm sure I mentioned this to you too, Rich, on the phone, was that a lot of what's going on these days is that people are so unsophisticated with the media that they don't realize that what they're viewing is a fucking product. You know, they think they're the customer. People who watch TV and watch news programs think that their viewership is what's drawing and creating revenue, and it's not. It's advertisers. What's creating the revenue is putting eyeballs in front of the dick pill commercials, right? So they don't take that a step further and try to understand that what they're viewing is a fucking crafted product targeted at a specific demographic, liberal, conservative, whatever else you want to call it. You know what I mean? So you're not actually watching news. You're watching reality-based programming meant to, sort of accumulate an audience to put in front of the advertisers so they can make more money. And it's basically what Edward R. Murrow was warning about back in the 50s and the 60s, that when you turn news into a profit-making organism, that journalism is going to go out the window because you've got to attract audiences, and therefore you're going to, corrupt the product in the end. And people don't get that. People don't have no concept of that whatsoever. They think that Fox News is some cabal that's in charge, sort of in place to, I don't know, like a propaganda. It's not a propaganda network. It's a tailored product, a news product tailored to a specific audience to gain viewership. You know what I mean? People don't get that.
Isn't all of it?
That's people. Yes, people have a hard time understanding that. Yes, these people are as cynical, and even more so than you give them credit for. That they have no problem.
The media companies,
media companies, advertisers. Yeah. When I try to explain to people just how, I'm like, look, you know when racism isn't racism? When you call it marketing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I get dumbfounded stares. And they go, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, you do not understand. When you turn on, let's say,
some of those racist people in the world are radio or television salespeople.
Well, I was going to say, when you turn on like a hip-hop station here in Detroit, now you'll hear a McDonald's commercial. And that McDonald's commercial, they'll have black voice
like
actors.
Billy D. Williams voicing it and shit.
They'll have hip-hop music playing underneath it. They'll even put a hip-hop spin on their I'm loving it logo, whatever. Then you turn on the country. You turn on the country station. It's some dude with a twang, a bunch of country-ish guitars in the background, and a little country spin on I'm loving it. Yeah. I'm like, do you not understand? Everything is marketed towards you. You've already been divided up into a category. Yeah. And people resist that, but yet they love to go, I'm going to label myself this. I don't want to be an individual. And this is something I don't get with a lot of the people in the younger generation, the two generations coming up behind us. I don't understand it. I'm hoping we're not the last generation that has like a fierce desire to be an individual. Like don't relate to me as the stereotype. Relate to me as me, not what. Well, no,
that's the identity politics. That's whether everybody's got to be sort of put in their little cubby hole. I'm a strong white woman, or I'm a strong black woman, or I'm a whatever. I mean, there is no individuality left. I can insert tribalism spiel here, but there is no individuality that seems to be left anymore. Everybody has to join a certain group. And when you say that the media companies, just to go back to one thing you said, it's not cynicism. It doesn't have anything to do with cynicism. They are a corporation. Their job is to make money. Plain and simple. Like anybody else. Like GoPro. It's no different. They have to make money, and they make money by putting eyeballs in front of advertisers so they can either sell more commercials or they can raise their ad rates. It's fucking simple. And if you look at the product through that filter, it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Everything from MSNBC to Fox News, even CNN with their stupid – they're the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. I would rather watch two porcupines fuck for 7 hours than watch 5 minutes of CNN. I can't fucking stand it.
ESPN?
Huh? I don't watch ESPN.
Well, let's say Jamel Hill – They were all behind her till she fucked with their commerce, and they went, "Oh no, you
that's exactly right.
Fuck up.
That is exactly right.
You got to knock that shit off."
Yeah, yeah. You start talking about advertisers. It was funny. My girlfriend's parents were here. Her dad is like a big fucking neocon, really religious guy.
Is he making America great again?
Well, kind of. But he's from Kalamazoo, back where we did radio. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? This is with the Jamel Hill thing. And if I were to go on the air, pretend we're back in Kalamazoo and it's 2000, Chris, and I were to go on the air and say, hi, this is Todd Thompson, 1077 WRKR. And Harold Ziegler, Ford, Lincoln, Mercury, they're a bunch of pieces of shit. They just are real assholes, and you should never fucking shop there. What would have happened to me?
That'd have been your last break that you ever did.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I wouldn't have had any cause, any soapbox that had anything to do with the first motherfucking amendment.
Son.
It had nothing to do with my freedom of speech. It had everything to do with using their platform to cost them money. You don't have a right to that. It doesn't fall under the First Amendment. There is no government suppression going on when you're fired. It's you're a fucking idiot.
Jamel Hill's been super quiet since she's been back. She's been back for like a month. You ain't heard shit from her.
I don't watch it, but yeah, it's
right. We were talking earlier about redefining terms, and certainly just the whole Second Amendment, the whole First Amendment, the whole concept of freedom of speech has been redefined to be used as a shield to protect people from behavior that they just think is unfair.
Yeah.
It's unfair that I spoke my mind and I was punished for it.
It's like
that's not what this country is all about.
Like that dipshit who flipped off, who went viral, who flipped off Trump. She worked for a government contractor. She made it her social media profile picture, and then she's like, "What happened? What's going on? Why'd I get fired?"
You can it doesn't apply to your employer. The First Amendment is to keep the government from throwing you in jail for voicing an opinion. Nobody's being thrown in jail.
Exactly. The First Amendment means
losing your fucking job is not the same as being thrown in a fucking Soviet-style gulag because you spoke out against Stalin.
The First Amendment means the St. Clair Shores police aren't kicking my doors in tomorrow because we recorded this podcast. That's what the First Amendment means.
Doesn't protect you from being a fucking idiot. Simple. And people seem to, oh my God, you're being censored on Facebook. That's a violation of my free speech. Fuck you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know what?
Where's this thing of my social media account isn't right? Where's that come from?
Oh my God. The blue check marks on Twitter. Oh, people are going nuts over this shit. I don't even understand why they devised a whole check mark method anyways, other than, a lot of people were opening up fake celebrity accounts. You know, so they had to be like, well, we definitely know that that's David Hasselhoff. You're not being duped by somebody who's acting like David Hasselhoff online. Like, what the fuck does it matter anyway? But so David Hasselhoff gets the blue check mark, and now everybody that gets to a certain number of followers gets verified at a certain point, right? And so then verification is seen as
people with less followers
approval as well.
Blue check mark. I'm just saying.
So then, like people like Richard Spencer is on Twitter, and now he gets his blue check mark taken away because everyone's like, why you approve of what this guy is saying? You're letting him say all this stuff on Twitter, and so now Twitter has to completely reevaluate whether they're going to do blue check marks in the first place at all, or what that means, because apparently it means something completely different to everybody who's using Twitter, and. And meanwhile, there's, I forget what term they were using for it. They had their own hashtag for it, but these people who are seen as extreme right-wingers and are saying that there's basically a genocide on Twitter. Like, they're being wiped out. They're being, this is another example of how the deep state is trying to silence them, and Twitter is all part of it. They're part of the liberal media agenda, and that's why they don't want us on here.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How the fuck do you have hope for anything?
I know.
Seriously.
He lives on Twitter, and I'm like, that...
Dude,
I go
tried
on Twitter, and I feel my soul
Twitter was
slipping
actually,
out of my body.
I got to tell you this, going back a few years to the podcast when it ended, Twitter was one of the things that ended it. Because I was trying to market that shit on Twitter, which meant I was observing Twitter, and I wanted to hang myself every fucking day. Just like string myself up with some fucking fishing line. Please, I don't want to watch that. Okay, I can't look at how the fuck can you do that? I don't understand. I
don't know. It's like
patience,
picking
Sarah.
a scab, kind of. Sometimes, you know. Certainly, there's times where I'll go on Twitter and all I want to do is read somebody's stupid jokes or see some interesting comic book art or something like that, and I'll just
see something retarded.
Flip right past anything that mentions anything political or anything like that. Then there's other times where I do want to read not only somebody's ridiculous post, but all of the comments on it, and regardless of how stupid. And it does feel like kind of picking a scab, but
picking a scab. Like
it's almost like compulsive behavior. Like, is there anything directly gained from reading what one idiot says? No, but
why do you do
I don't want to say like I feel more informed per se, but at least you know that you're not going to change these people.
That's for damn sure.
But understanding how people think is certainly advantageous, I think. I don't know. I'm saying, yes, it's a cesspool.
It's polite, yeah.
But there's there's good information to be gleaned there still.
I'll trust you.
Let me ask a question. Because I don't think of all the conversations we've ever had on this show, I don't think we've ever really had this one about, at least with how we look at social media and our use of it. And so I guess the main question is, do any of you guys feel like you are or ever have been addicted to social media?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
No.
To the point where I didn't understand what it was doing. I've attributed it to alcoholism. I compare it directly to alcoholism. And a lot of the stuff that I've been going through, partially with you, Chris, and a little bit with you as well, Aaron, was the making amends part of the 12-step. It's fucking weird.
Okay.
I didn't ever intend it that way, but I found myself actually enacting certain elements of the 12-step to get myself away from it. Absolutely.
Interesting.
See, because I've pretty much, for the most part, pulled back a lot with interacting on Facebook. Facebook's my drug of choice.
Yeah, it was mine too, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I post shit that amuses myself, but then again, I'm the guy that walks around at work doing shit just to amuse myself, and I don't care if anyone else gets the joke. So I'm just weird like that. But I do find what I keep coming back to Facebook for, and this is the part that I'm hooked through and through. The hook is set deep too, is the voyeuristic part.
Yeah.
I don't get involved in the drama, but boy, I'll be the neighbor peeping over the fence at the drama.
Oh yeah, I'm mostly a lurker on Twitter. Like I don't post a lot of shit, and I'm not trying to like put something out there like some personality. I'm not trying to craft some online avatar, some version of myself. I'm just observing.
It's unavoidable though to do that. You cannot put forth an authentic version of yourself on social media. It's impossible.
Sure.
So you may not be trying. I mean, if you're posting anything, either to face, I mean, I think you're probably a different animal than I was, Aaron. I don't really compare you and I directly, but I do know that if you're participating in it at all, you are putting forth a sanitized version of yourself, which is the Matrix avatar. It's what you want people to see. It's the projection that you're choosing for the world to see electronically.
Yeah, and even going back to what I was saying about how I make a conscious decision and effort to be more agreeable, I guess, when I interact with people on Facebook. Once again, I'm not being my acerbic,
you're not being a human being. You're being that electronic representation of yourself.
Okay, but it's I guess I think of it more like there's certain things that I share on Twitter and most other things that I don't. In the same way that we can sit here and have a conversation about all these different things, but if I was at the grocery store in line and somebody wanted to strike up this kind of conversation with me, I would not lean into it. I'd be like, no, I just want to like pay for my shit and go home. I don't need to have this conversation here now with.
Well, that's one of the things, though.
With you, guy in a MAGA hat.
I craft an image based on what I choose to share online. I guess I'm not conscious of trying to portray a certain version of myself. It's just any more than I am when any more than I am than how I decide how I dress when I go to work or how I conduct myself when I go out just interacting with people in public.
Yeah, but you're not.
I put clothes on. I watch TV on the couch nude, but I would put clothes on to buy groceries.
Yeah, I
there's certain things that I share on certain platforms.
Right, but the thing is that people, whatever human being you're interacting with, whatever human being is on the other end of whatever connection you have via social media, you are not interacting with that human being electronically. Right. You can't do it. It's fucking impossible to do that. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier as far as the human synapses versus the artificial kind, and what I'm kind of looking forward to doing next year, to actually getting in front of more random people, to see what these human beings are like as opposed to the online interaction. I think I really want to see if it's possible to glean what's in control and what's in charge now. You know what I mean? I don't know that I'm articulating that properly. But I think that going back to this hope thing, and I'll make it just to reiterate it real fast. If there is any hope, I think from myself personally, that it has to be a return to the organic sort of interaction and looking people in the eye and having real face-to-face conversations and having some people get punched in the motherfucking face a few times when they try to drag this Matrix avatar out into what I call the desert of the real as I rip off the Matrix. You know what I mean? I think that is the one thing, and it's the odds of this happening are about the same as Jesus coming back at exactly 9:27 tomorrow morning. I don't think that it's likely at all.
What if you're going to tweet at somebody? You're required to watch a little video that's recorded of their reaction on their phone when they read your tweet.
That would be a step up. That would be a step up. A very small step, because he'd probably be sitting there with his dick in his hand.
Okay, that's just. I mean, I'm kind of being facetious, but
I know you are.
I don't want to retread ground that we've already went over, but that kind of goes to my point of the fact that as we this whole digital world that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. We've barely even experienced it. We're just dipping our toe into it, and it's already freaking a lot of people out.
I have a name for that too, and I've called us the cyberspace monkeys.
Right.
That there's no schematic here. There's no user's manual for how to fucking navigate. We are the first generation to use it, and we are learning as we go and making some really horrific mistakes. I look at it like putting an 8-year-old in a car.
Cyberspace,
the motherfucker's
spam, and a
crash.
can.
Right, but when we started putting electricity into everybody's houses, a lot of mistakes were made, and still to this day, houses burn down and people get electrocuted.
Yeah, are you making?
I mean, we get better.
Do you think social media is essential as electricity?
In reality, or
that's a good question. Is it essential as electricity?
No.
I would say yes. I would say yes, because what we're considering essential is the way of life that we want to live, right? Essential as in it's neither are as essential as oxygen.
This is true.
So if you want to start categorizing things that way, then electricity is just as superfluous as social media.
If electricity went away, I would still wake up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we would find ways to carry on.
Actually, if electricity went away, we wouldn't have social media. I'm all for it.
Exactly.
Let's kill it.
It's our last podcast, everybody.
We'll just come over and bring beer, and we can sit around your place and chat. We've tried that before, though. No whiskey this time. Por favor.
Gotcha.
One of the things that I thought was interesting when I was in rehab was the first thing they do when you get there is, okay, empty your pockets. And they take your phone and they put it in a little box and they say, okay, you won't be needing this for the next 28 to whatever, how many ever days. And I watched so many people going through heroin, any type of opiate withdrawal, people going through the DTs, and they were almost as fiending as much for their phone back as they were for their drug of choice. And
oh, Jesus.
I don't mean to say this in like a, ooh, or pat myself on the back way. I swear I don't. But I just did not give a single fuck that I didn't have my phone. It did not bother me. When I come home from work, I put my phone on the charger. And if I don't have to be at work for like 2 days, sometimes I don't even see my phone for 2 days. It could be in another room. And
I wish I could be there. I didn't have my phone for 2 hours like a couple weeks ago because it was being fixed, and I just felt like I had some peace. It's like,
yeah. I don't use my phone all that much either. That was the first thing, one of the first things that I got rid of when I actually attacked the digital detox a year ago. Was I got the Facebook app off of my phone. Because having it on your phone makes it too fucking easy to pick it up and look at it. You know what I mean? Or when you're sitting on the couch watching something and you want to, post your holy righteous opinion on something, you can just pick your phone up, blah, 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 post, there's my fucking thoughts on something. When you have to stand up and, there's that added step that really makes it a whole hell of a lot easier to stay away from it. The phone thing is, that book, The Shallows, that I keep talking about, that goes into this whole other thing about having the access in your pocket and what it does to that addiction sort of end of.
See, for me, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but for me, I've just kind of learned, like, the stove is hot. Like, it's still on my phone, but I am not as active as I once was, not by a long shot. I've just kind of learned to it's just another app. It's no longer an extension of like, hey, I have this thought and let's shoot it out to cyberspace. No, it's another app. It's like fucking Waze at this point to me.
Todd, have you read I Hate the Internet?
No.
It's a very short book. I think you'd enjoy it. It's kind of a weird book.
Are you saying that I don't have the attention span to read a long book, Aaron?
No, Not at all. No, not at all. All I'm saying is that this is like, it's not a big commitment.
I just read 600 pages on Hemingway this week. God damn it.
There you go. No, but it's kind of this quirkily written book that is just about, it's about different experiences on the internet and how, I don't know, just how things get out of control. And it's actually a lot about what we're talking about. And
yeah.
I don't know, it's interesting. It's by, I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the author's name. Jarrett, with 2 T's, Kobek, Kobek.
Okay.
But it's very entertaining. It's quite funny, actually, the way he's a very amusing writer, but, it doesn't philosophize about the online interactions. It really just kind of lays it out in plain language that makes it, to any discernible reader, I think, makes it, the ridiculousness comes through just in the plain way that he handles everything.
Right. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it. I've got 2 days. I fly off to Cartagena, so I'm not going to be picking up any books between now and Saturday. But is it? You know if it's on Kindle?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. Maybe I'll.
I read it on my iPad.
Yeah, I've got this McLuhan book, and I've got another one of his in queue after that, and then I think there's one other one that I was gonna. But I've got a little time on my hands with buses and shit down there, so I may download it and check it out as long as it's cheap. And maybe I can steal it. That'd be great. But
no, yeah. I'm pretty sure it is either cheap or free online.
Yeah, I'll look for it.
But okay, so where do we go from here?
How about a piss break?
Like
I'm always looking for those
podcast wise.
Oh yeah, what did you mean?
Oh, podcast wise, yeah. No, we can take a quick break.
Let's take a pee break. We can. You know, we've kind of. It's been a lot of. We haven't done a lot of politics or anything. So if you guys want to steer that way, that's cool with me. What do you? Any other suggestions?
Some shit happened this last week. Charlie Manson died. We talk about that. I don't know why. Seems.
Oh my God! The amount of people I work with who think that's Marilyn Manson that died was truly. I'm like, are you fucking with me? Or are you serious right now?
Do it. Get it done. All right. That's a good.
You know, I'll tell you what, guys. While we're on break here, I like the conversation that we're having here tonight, and what I've told both. I guess I'm telling you, Aaron, because I think I've told both Chris and Rich this at the same time. This is something that's not being talked about a lot. There are little elements here and there that are kind of bubbling up left and right, but I don't hear a lot of conversation about this stuff. And if you guys really move distinctive, I would love.
Whoa!
Oh,
yeah.
Wait! You're dropping out there.
Yeah, I came back. It reconnected on me. Where did I leave off? What did you hear?
You were talking about conversations we're having aren't really being talked about.
Yeah,
and then you dropped out.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I would highly encourage you guys to keep these conversations up as far as the internet. Yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that you sort of advocate for it, Aaron, adds to it because it does it makes you guys distinctive, and that is something that you know, if you really want to, I don't know what you want to do with this thing moving forward, but I would really encourage it. Because it's intelligent, it's smart, and it makes people think. And I think as far as even sort of the altruistic end of it, it makes people might raise a little bit of awareness on the subject, get people to think how they use the internet and what this shit does to them. You know, that might actually, please, for the love of Christ, at least keep going with it a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Because like I said, that's when I heard that back at the end of September when I kind of stalked you guys, I was like, holy fuck, finally. And the fact that it came from you guys thrilled me. Because I told Chris, we haven't talked. None of us have talked for 3 years. And
shit
to see that what's that?
Has hit the fan in like the last 3 years.
I fucking dropped out right before Trump. But what really encourages me is that you guys didn't influence me. I didn't influence you, all four of us have to some degree come to the same conclusion on this. Not to different degrees, obviously, Aaron, you have a different, long-term view on this, but it was sort of two organic little fucking things growing in two separate petri dishes.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I don't know what it spoke, but it spoke volumes. So no matter what happens, as far as our interaction or whatever goes from here, I hope you guys continue with it because it's something that will make you distinctive, and that's what, you want to stand out in the crowd. That's what you got to do. You got to do what somebody else isn't.
We're all insane. I think we're all pretty adept at that.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'm going to go pee and smoke a cigarette, and I'll be back.
Do you guys want to hit on this net neutrality thing at all?
How can the FCC repeal something Congress has done? That's what I don't understand.
When it comes to the legislative side of things, I have to defer to somebody else. That's not my area of expertise. I just know that it doesn't. If it goes as bad as some people are predicting, it doesn't bode well for guys like us.
I was reading about that actually while we were talking. An article about that come up with whatever. I was searching on something and it was something that hit and I was like, oh fuck.
I mean, basically, if you are a small independent content provider and you don't have money to send people to lobby and speak on your behalf, you're not going to be heard. So you're going to be fucking just basically. They're going to shut the tap off.
No, it's not going to be so much as the tap is shut off. It's just going to be like there's going to be I guess maybe there's going to be a giant roadblock in your way. Because what I was reading is it's going to turn into something like, hey, you can browse our sites for free, but for the rest of the internet, it's going to cost you extra money, like that kind of shit.
Oh yeah. Someone put oh shit. Hold on a sec. It's a simplified way to break it down. He said, what we have right now, let's say you pay $54.99 a month, to your ISP that gives you video, email, gaming, social media. Well, no net neutrality, video, that's going to be $18 a month, email, $9 a month, gaming, $15 a month, social media, $12.99. Oh, but hey, if you want Facebook only, it's $8.99, and if you want Netflix only for your video, it's $8.99. Yeah.
Fucked.
And it's also going to give, one of the predictions is it's going to give the internet service providers, the big ones, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, they're going to be able to start favoring and producing their own content and services over anybody else's. So, wonderful. Now we're going to have even more of a monopoly in the control and flow of information.
State-run media. Welcome. Kind of.
Corporate-run media.
Yeah.
And this is where I have this is my issue. This is where I have issues with so many of my friends that are libertarians. It's we all know the snake flag, don't tread on me. And I saw someone photoshopped a shoe stepping on the snake, and it said, Comcast, Disney, AT&T on the shoe, and the snake was saying, "Well, hey, at least it's not government." And that's pretty much like these people that are like, oh yeah, man, no regulations, let the free market decide everything. Taxation of any type is theft. It's like, okay, so you don't want to be controlled by the government, but you're fine being controlled by people who in no way are beholden to you because first of all, it's a billionaires club and you ain't in it. All right? And you're not a temporarily embarrassed billionaire asshole. You're a working poor white person in the middle of nowhere. You're not in the club. No matter how much
every year this thing goes by and I file a loss. I mean, I get some shit back in April, but yeah, I'm starting to come more over to your side, Rich. Like, goddamn, give a motherfucker a chance.
There's two things on that net neutrality thing that I just lost the first one. God damn it. Too much coffee, I think. The one thing that I came to, I mean, net neutrality has traditionally been sort of one of my big issues. You know, I was all in favor of keeping free range internet intact. But this is my cynicism creeping in, and it kind of ties into what we've been talking about all night, is that if people don't know how to use the internet anyway, they don't bother to use it in constructive ways. What the hell, tangibly, what does it matter if Comcast is throttling this website or this website? It's not like people are off enlightening themselves anyway. You see what I'm saying? I don't I honestly, it's hard for me to say today. Anyway, get back to me in 6 weeks when I'm out of the cave here. How it's really going to affect anything?
Yeah, it is interesting.
I mean, dude, I can't get with you on that one, man. Just because you don't use something doesn't mean that in the future you're going to continue to not use it, or you're going to continue to misuse it.
Right now, I go.
That's a very addict type of mindset in my book. That's an all or nothing mindset. I guess I kind of
default to, like, right now, like, I choose to go to Google News, like, or for my homepage. Like, I don't want it to, like, I guess it goes back to that crazy night, 4 years ago. Like, it's like you two putting the album on my phone. Like, don't put that shit on me. Like, let me choose. Be like, hey, you two's got a new album. Let me download it. It's free if you want it. Like, it's the same thing. I don't want my homepage to be forced. I guess it's kind of where it comes down to.
And real quick, just to speak to, you said people are, they have the world of knowledge at their fingertips and they don't use it. I think a lot of the problem is that we've entered the opinions trump facts, no pun intended, like time in society, to where even if you go to do your own fact checking, all someone has to do is cast enough doubt on where you go to get your facts checked. Oh, you went to Snopes? Snopes is a fucking left-wing fucking organization. Don't believe anything they say. Oh, you went over here?
It's a post-truth world. That's the phrase that I've heard thrown around lately. It's a post-fact world.
I found a site that basically breaks down media bias and does fact checking, and they call out everybody from the right to the left. They have pro science, they have pseudoscience, questionable sources, what's satire and what's not. And I tell people about it and they go, oh, well, how do you know that's legit? I'm like, well, how do you know who your fucking father is? Because your mother told you,
you kick him in the balls.
You know who your daddy is.
You suck.
Like, seriously. At a certain point, as cynical as I am, and as much of a doubting Thomas as I am, when my hand's in Jesus' gut, I gotta fucking pretty much say, okay, that's probably Jesus standing there in front of me. Yeah. I mean, come on now.
In that sort of environment, though, in that sort of environment where you can cast doubt on anything, and I think we're all pretty much in agreement that's where we're at, right? That it doesn't matter about fact. All you have to do is say, Snopes is a liberal, blah, 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 blah. There is no real agreeable basis of fact anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back to, Todd, I agree with you.
I cut out again, didn't I? Sorry.
No, we heard everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did? Yeah, it's weird. Okay.
Sometimes we hear everything, sometimes we don't.
Jumping back to the net neutrality issue real quick, though, Todd, I totally agree with you on this. I'm in the same boat. It used to be something that freaked me out, and now I realize the more I find out about it, I understand that this means almost nothing to the end user. This is a battle between companies like AT&T and Verizon that control the access to the internet, and companies like Google and Amazon that want to profit off of the information and access to the internet. That's whether we have net neutrality or not doesn't change the business model for, when it comes to, Comcast giving me access to the internet, or me paying for content through things that I get through the internet. it may result in, like, Rich, the example that you're using, and I've seen it pushed around Twitter a lot too, is that we'll see like a segregation of how we can access the internet. It isn't just like I get the internet into my house and I can do whatever I want with it. I have to now decide, am I more of a gamer, or do I want to be on social media, or am I just using it for Netflix? But, you know, that could actually result in lower prices for what you're paying for internet access, you know?
Well, what about competition too? I mean, if there was real competition here, and you had a choice between internet service providers.
Now, there's the difference. Net neutrality doesn't do anything for that, though. It doesn't say that Comcast or Verizon or AT&T can own, you know, any more of a certain percentage of access to the internet. They can own as much as they want. Much as they
My
can
point is, though, if it was really a free market, okay, and I could choose between AT&T and Comcast, the only thing I can get here is Comcast. Right.
You cannot.
Right, I may be able to get Verizon, that FiOS thing here before long. Whatever, I can't now. But
it runs like the mob. They have their own territory.
Yeah, that's been an issue for years. But what I'm saying is, if you had this, then if you actually had the free market and you had freedom of choice about your internet service provider, then the ISPs would be in a position where they really couldn't throttle the internet all that much if they didn't want to lose customers, because somebody else would offer more access to greater parts of the internet and more websites, and therefore draw customers. You see what I mean? If it was actually a free market, this wouldn't be a fucking issue. The FCC could do whatever it wanted with that, but people would choose with their own money and their own subscriptions to subscribe to the service that gave them the most unthrottled access to the most of the internet. Well, but that isn't how it works, though.
But the reason that companies like Google and Amazon are so interested in net neutrality isn't just because somebody else controls the spigot that they rely on to get their information. It's because the more regulation that is put on the internet in general, the more we're going to start regulating what Google and Amazon is doing with our information.
Is that a bad thing?
Which is what they're making their money from. Google and Amazon are companies that are making billions of dollars in advertising based off of the information of our browsing habits.
Yeah.
That's what they're ultimately afraid of. Is it a bad thing that Google and Amazon is doing that, or that they're concerned about it?
Yeah, I don't see that as a negative. I'd love to see Google regulated with what they gather and what they do with the information.
Okay, no, I follow you now. No, absolutely. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Look, we accept a certain amount of regulation in anything in this country. You know, is life better with electricity? I think we can all agree. I think that we can all agree that it is, right? There's as dangerous as it can be. There's major advantages that allow us much better, productive, healthier lives, whatever. Damn it, I lost where I was going with that one.
Yeah.
See, my concern is that you guys keep talking about the competition, in a breed competition.
Oh, no, I was talking...
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we can agree that it's better, but it doesn't mean that automatically that it becomes a right. No, I lost that. Never mind. That was going somewhere different.
Let me add one other thing here, because it sounds like you're either for internet regulation and what the FCC is trying to do, or you see it as an encroachment on free access to information. It seems to me, not too long ago, that everybody thought Obama permanently saved the internet, and yet here we are. So who's to say that if the FCC goes through with this and then, the skies part and somehow Trump's not reelected in 3 years, that President Elizabeth Warren isn't going to install somebody into the FCC that rolls it back again? It seems like this is really it's almost like one of those arguments that come up every 4 fucking years, depending on who's president and who's in charge of the FCC. It's nothing permanent. You know what I mean?
That's true.
It's like if it were, whatever Obama did 3 years ago wouldn't be coming up again. But now, fuck, here it is again. Do you think it's going to stay in place if Bernie Sanders is elected?
No, of course not.
So what's it matter? I guess. I mean, it seems like one of those issues that that is sort of thrust upon us in the by the outrage industrial wants us to sit here and argue about it, but it never changes. The argument always changes depending on who wins a certain election. Nothing's permanent. There's no set of permanent values that we're going to go by. It's all based on this fucking election cycle stuff we go through every 4 years. Well, let's rehash the same arguments.
Let's play pretend for a few minutes here and say 2020 Democrat gets into the Oval Office, goes back to net neutrality.
Yeah.
And somehow, in some unforeseen way that we haven't thought of yet, basically makes it to where they can never do what the FCC is trying to do now again. What's going to happen? They do that? That's why I said we got to play pretend here for a second. Okay. Because and bear with me because I swear I'm going somewhere with this. To me, it's going to turn into an issue like abortion is. It's like, okay, abortion's going nowhere. Right. So what do states do? States start making it damn near impossible, some states, to get an abortion. I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember the name of it, forgive me, but they were talking to one of the last doctors in Texas who offers abortions, and they were talking about all the loopholes a woman has to go through, including a waiting period, and you have to see 3D
watch a video.
Yeah, 3D scans of your baby and all this shit. And
give it a name.
Yeah, and I'm just I mean, there was that one politician who said that he wanted to pass a law that all aborted fetuses had to have a funeral, basically a death certificate. A funeral. Texas? Yeah, this was they were talking to this doctor in Texas.
For an abortion than a gun.
Yeah, believe me, it was an extremely liberal podcast, and they could have punctured titanium with their fucking rock hard dicks pointing that fact out. But I mean, that's where I see shit like it goes. It's if it's not a back and forth like a tennis match, it turns into okay, fine, fuck it. We can't overturn it, but we can damn sure make sure there's a whole lot of roadblocks there in front of you, make it almost impossible for you to do. It's just easier for a woman to leave Texas and go get an abortion someplace else if they have the money. Which, let's be honest, most people who get abortions are self-aware enough to realize A, they can't afford to raise a kid. So it usually puts them somewhere along the spectrum of working poor to lower middle class. And B, they're not in a position to raise a kid. If you don't have the money, how the fuck are you going to get from South Texas to another state that has easier abortion laws? It's not like people who have never traveled, and Todd, you can speak to this. People who've never traveled, even in the continental United States, do not realize how fucking huge this country is, how big a state like Texas is. You can start driving from one side, and 2 days later, you finally get to the other.
Dude, I spent 9 fucking days trying to hitchhike my way to Oklahoma.
Exactly.
It's huge. It's fucking huge.
I mean, so that's where this is the political game games that get played. That is what gums up the works in my opinion. All right. I mean, because there would have to be some segment that would go, well, wait a minute. Even if it's just out of spitefulness, we're gonna put as many roadblocks in your way as we can.
I don't know that they can. For one thing, the difference between abortion, which is a state law issue, and something that's regulated by the FCC, that's federal. I don't think that states can impose their own regulations upon a federally regulated utility like it's not utility, I guess, but something that falls under the FCC blanket.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but aren't we kind of going through that right now with states with legalizing medical and recreational marijuana versus the federal law?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there is
Rich,
precedent for it for the states to go give a fuck about your federal law.
Yeah, but this is something. Marijuana doesn't go through an infrastructure like cable wires. That they're talking about. They're regulating shops that open in a strip mall. The infrastructure is already there, and it's already running through established lines.
I got you. It's not like if you open a medical marijuana shop, you don't even have to have your product imported. You can grow it yourself. Whereas internet, it has to go through. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I can see. I don't think, the FCC, again, Chris and I, we've dealt with, there are regulations and things that are put in place by the Federal Communications Commission that the states have no control over whatsoever.
But, what about this, though? Rich, when you talk about the woman that is in Texas, wants an abortion, has to travel out of state in order to get that. Now, let's say if that woman is wanting to have an abortion because, let's say she's, in her early 20s, she has a boyfriend, but she's not really serious. It was an accident, and she's going to school, and she has a career planned, and so that's why she wants this abortion, right? If she has to leave Texas to have that abortion, there's probably not a good chance of her coming back to Texas. She's going to go on to be a professional in some other state that is more in line with her beliefs, right? And in the same way, when we talk about what the FCC is going to do to regulate the internet in our country, that has to be weighed against what other countries are doing. We can't just look at the internet in a vacuum in our own country, because while we might not like the fact that Google and Amazon and other giant companies like this are marketing our information and advertising in a certain way to us that just seems creepier, do we ultimately want Amazon and Google to be based out of our country? Don't we like the fact that they're part of our economy, that these are booming industries? And so when we talk about how much we're going to regulate the internet, we have to consider how much are we going to regulate it compared to what is our competition doing? What are they doing in Europe? What are they doing in Japan, in China?
Well, it reminds me of the old the torrents. The torrent sites, you could make things illegal here, and you couldn't operate anything that was going to disseminate movies and music and all that shit. But you set up shot in Becky Stan or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, how are you going to enforce that? How are you going to regulate that? Because so it's offshore.
There's a concept of a brain drain or an industry drain, essentially.
Right.
We have to regulate the internet in a way that makes sense. It's not an all or nothing issue of it has to be a free and open wild west, because that's how we're all successful, and that's how it came to be what it is, and it should be by the people and for the people. No, it's just
they don't want Silicon Valley going to Mumbai.
You definitely don't.
So
especially when we're operating in a world where we're not producing all the goods that other countries want, that we're not manufacturing things, and then
there is a little bit of a wild card in all this that, and I'm hesitant to even bring it up because I could see why it would be easily dismissed because of who declared it. But I mean, the UN did declare an open and free internet and dissemination of information online a human right. Now, is the UN going to pick a fucking battle with the United States over this? No, obviously not. But as we move more towards a global economy, society, et cetera, and as our influence on the world keeps, outside of the military and cultural influence, modern day Roman Empire, as far as I'm concerned, guys. I wouldn't be surprised
you don't understand the influence this country has until all you need to do, I'm telling you, is go to Mexico, go to Central America, go to any of these countries down in South America, and you'll see the influence. It's everywhere. It's beyond the Roman Empire. It's the Roman Empire on steroids, on commercial steroids. It's everywhere.
And just like any other empire, the more you try to control everything, the more shit slips through your fucking hands. We can't constantly have 100% control over the entire globe of things that we want and still maintain what we have here. We've done a pretty good balancing act since World War II, but that's such a short period of time when you look at 70. Yes, exactly. I mean, you had empires that lasted for 1,000 years that are just no more. They don't even teach about them unless you go and you're a history major in college. I mean, that's, we're not even close to that. I mean, we were the cousin fuckers of the Western world up until what?
Dude, we should have that on the flag.
The late
cousin
40s?
Fuckers of the Western world, America.
Seriously. I have friends. The United States of cousin fuckers. I have friends who are from overseas, and they, or their family still is back, like let's say in England, and the colonies. That's how they refer to us. And then these are their older family members, but still, this isn't that long ago that we were looked at as like, oh, get the fuck out of here, get these Yanks out of here before they fuck everything up, please. I mean, it's in the more it stops being us driving the world economy, which it's arguable at this point that we do drive the world economy in certain areas at this point, because you have the likes of China, you do have the likes of what's going on with the countries that are becoming industrialized. And there is, as Aaron said, we have a brain drain here. We have people come here from other countries, get an education, and then leave and go back to their country. And there's absolutely nothing of their education or their innovations that they come up with that is given back to us.
Well, what the fuck are we producing?
I'm not saying, hold on, I'm not saying we're owed that. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a doctor in the Soviet Union before it fell, and you come over here after the Russia as we knew it when we were kids ceased to be, well, get your cab driving license, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. But if you come over here and get a medical degree, you can go anywhere in the fucking world and name your price. I mean, that's what the world's realizing that. The world's realizing you don't have to come here and buy into the so-called American dream. You can come here and get an education, get the fuck out, and then go be king shit of the smaller turd pile instead of a turd at the base of the huge shit pile here in America. I don't know if that makes any sense. Whatever. It's fucking.
No, I'm with you.
What boarding school did you go to, Rich?
Damn.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. This is all coming from someone who admittedly has only ever been to Canada and never been to another country. And I've been to all the lower the continental United States except for California. But I'm considered well-traveled amongst my friends. And I'm like,
wow. Because you've been on the Boblo boat?
You're exceedingly well-traveled, dude. If you've been to every lower 48 but California, you're like Marco motherfucking Polo at this point.
But, I mean, it's all relative.
You left Wayne County?
Yeah, exactly. And to speak back to what you brought up about, this imaginary woman who had to go leave Texas for an abortion, Aaron. Yeah, she might go back to Texas, complete her education, and leave to pursue a career someplace else.
Right. But she decides to raise her family in another state where her daughter won't have to go through that shit, make those types of choices.
But I have to say this, and only because I've experienced it, and I've seen it in a lot of my other friends who've left the cradle, if you will, of, Wayne, the Tri-County area here in Michigan. The pull of home, for some people, never underestimate that. Oh, yeah. Even as fucked up as it is, even as fucked up as home can be, for whatever reason, some people romanticize it. Some people, my ex-wife grew up in a podunk little town in the thumb, and the minute she could get out, she got out, and she never looked back, has no desire to ever move there, live there ever again. She's the exception. Most of my friends in their 20s wandered around, or they joined the military, or they moved, or whatever. But usually by the time 30s, we were comfortably into our mid-30s. Almost all of them were back here. Very few people stayed gone.
I fucking know it.
Can I, let me tell you, actually, this just happened to me today. I'll tell you a quick story. I had the day to myself and went and saw a movie all by myself, which is my preferred method. I like taking my kids to the movies. That's fine. But if I really want to enjoy a movie, I just go by myself. For whatever reason, my car wouldn't start when I got out of the movie. Found these nice people that were in the theater in front of me that jumped my car. And the guy was like, well, you should drive it around for at least a half hour if you can. I'm like, yeah, it totally makes sense. Charge the battery up. So I've got nowhere else. Nothing's open anyway. I can't go anywhere. I'm just putzing around. But I also live kind of in my old hood. And I don't have this like nostalgia thing. I don't have this. I don't have special attachments to places per se. But I had nowhere to go, and I just wanted to drive around. So I went to the house not the house that I grew up in, but the house that from like my teen years on. And by my high school. And it was kind of just to see if I felt something. Is there are there memories that are going to like pop into my head or be like, oh God, I remember that? It was nothing like that. It was like everything was a lot smaller than I remember it, and that was about it. Like,
yeah.
Yep, that was the shape of the house. And I remember it being bigger.
I got out of Michigan. I got out of this little shithole town down in Hillsdale County. I'm trying to remember if I should say shithole in Hillsdale County. I'm trying to think if anybody's going to listen. Oh, fuck it. They know it's a shithole. Not news to them. Anyway, I got out of there in 97 when I started in radio. And about, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started going back regularly.
Yeah, I remember you made me
discovered
take you back one drunken night. Hey, it's 3 a.m. Let's drive to fucking... Oh, yeah.
Really?
From Kalamazoo.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'd like to point that out.
I forgot all about that.
Hour and a half at 3 a.m.
Sorry about that. Anyway, I went back there about 5 years ago, and I suddenly figured out that I'd been gone about 20 years at that point, and or 15 years, and I figured out that I could not be in that town for more than 2 or 3 hours without being drunk. It was so bad for me to go back because the memories. It was like the person that I was when I was there, that redneck, just piece of shit driving a piece of shit car and trying to fuck everything that moved guy, and this guy that I am now. I'm not even the same, let alone the same person. I'm not the same species as I was when I was there in my mullet, right? And I discovered that it's like matter and antimatter. And the only way that I could possibly endure being there for longer than 2 hours was to have my face in a really, really large boot full of beer. Oh. And it was one of the most unpleasant. I thought I was cracking up, dude. I thought I was going crazy.
Here I go. I go being well-adjusted again. I've tried to leave like 4 times.
I can't believe I took you back there.
I've tried to leave like 4. I can't. This place is like a fucking vortex. It just sucks you back.
Yeah. It's,
it's interesting because what you're talking about isn't nostalgia. It's
anxiety.
It's actually letting like an environment bringing out a certain quality in you that you've repressed, maybe.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're all old enough. Where you've like run into people maybe you haven't seen since you were 16 or 17, and most people when you do that, you resume the role that you had interacted. Is sort of the interactive relationship that you had when you were 17 years old. You're still the same person to each other, and you treat each other the same.
Yeah, because I think I'm conscious of that, and that's why I resist it.
Yeah.
I'm much more apt to. I'd rather let sleeping dogs lie in most situations.
And God help you if you don't resort back to that role, because they look at you like you're a fucking three-headed monster.
Oh, it's like maybe I have one in particular. I'm not going to say her name, but she was like a really hot cheerleader back in the day, right? And she's not hot anymore. She's hefty. And I was no longer intimidated, when I was sitting here looking at her, and I felt like I should be, but I'm like, why the ew? You know what I mean? And she sensed that there was a change because she kept trying to interact with me like she was the really hot cheerleader chick, and I was just like not having any of it. And you could tell that she was completely fucking confused by what had happened over the last 25 years. You used to cheer for
the football team. Now you're built like the football team.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Never wear battleship gray, honey. 3,000 sailors will try to board you. We had a reunion of sorts about 2011, I want to say, and I saw people I hadn't seen in 10 years at that point, some even longer than that, and there was a lot of alcohol involved. If I remember correctly, there was at least 2/5 of real Everclear being passed around like it was a water bottle. So
that's dangerous.
Everybody started getting.
Someone might have fucked a family member that night.
Everybody started getting loose, and it was amazing how easily everybody fell back into their old role. Then we tried it again the next year, and for whatever reason, it wasn't as well attended, and there wasn't as much booze, and it was just the most awkward people standing around, not knowing what to say to each other, realizing they have nothing in common with each other besides shit that happened 15, 20 years prior. And I was like, I remember I was kind of the Debbie Downer near the end of the party because people were coming up like, what the fuck's going on, man? This isn't what last year was like. I was like, dude, you can only go home many times.
I mean, that's...
Go back to the well many times before that well's dry.
My unintentional 20-year reunion, like a month back, it was kind of like, all right, well, I haven't seen you since college. Probably last time I'll see most of you. See you on Facebook. Like,
there's this thing in there's this book by John Steinbeck called Travels with Charlie. It's one of my favorite books. Really quick read, by the way. Speaking of which, Aaron, if you want to swap books, but he talked about he wrote this book like in the early 60s. He was on his way out. He was going to die within a few years, and he took one last trip around the country. Okay, and he went back to his hometown in Salinas, California, as a 60-year-old guy, famous writer, hadn't been back to spend any real amount of time. Now, this is way before the internet and all that, obviously. But he figured that out, that you cannot go home again. The passage of time, especially when you have that huge gap between then and now, life goes on, and you suddenly figure that out when you go back, right? And people used to experience that, and they don't experience that nearly as much anymore as I take things back to social media because of Facebook. We had our 20-year reunion in 2008. Now, 20 years was going to be 2009. I graduated in 1989. But everything happened in 2008 when Facebook exploded. And you don't have that. You don't leave people behind anymore like you used to. So these class reunions, they're almost they're redundant. Why do you need to?
I posed a question to my girlfriend after the incident I was just referring to. Like, did Facebook kill the high school reunion? Because there was never like, hey, we're having a 10-year or whatever. It's like, no, like, never any of that shit. Not for my class.
Well, I mean, you may have them, but they're not ever going to be what they were 15 years ago when you haven't actually laid eyes at all and had any contact with people since, you were in high school. You know exactly what's going on with almost all of these people. If you haven't, even if you haven't friended them on Facebook, you probably are connected via somebody else you have friended on Facebook. Sure. You don't have any of that, gee, what you been up to for the last week? Now it's, I see what you had for dinner every fucking day for the last 5 years.
I saw your goddamn kids 4 years ago when you had them.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing there. I
was friends with a baby.
Why bother with a class reunion at this point? You know, and this is another big thing that I've been talking about, because you're not supposed to. And again, I don't want to harp on. Yes, I do. I want to harp on fucking social media all night long, and I'll do it if you let me. But the thing is that you're not meant to. We figured this out a long time ago, that like you graduate from high school and you move on with your life, and gradually through attrition, people fall off the side. They fall out of your lives, right? By sheer neglect. You don't contact them, they don't contact you, and all of a sudden, well, whatever happened to, right? That doesn't happen anymore. Yes. You have got every motherfucker from second grade on who's trying to still remain relevant in your life somehow.
Hey, man.
Everybody is there, and it's like these friends that you were like, maybe you went and cruised some questionable beaver back in 1987 in some big fucking 4-wheel drive truck, and all of a sudden here they are again. You put this. Yeah, and you put these guys in the friendship graveyard a long time ago, right? And all of a sudden, here they are again, and it's like Pet fucking Cemetery, man. Whatever is coming out of that friendship cemetery is not the same thing that you buried back in 1987. It's some freak that like you have nothing fucking in common with anymore.
It's like the Billy Dad is better.
It's not that they're trying to be something relevant to you. They're expecting you to be that same relationship that means something to them, and are offended when you're not.
Exactly. And that's what Steinbeck, to kind of bring it all back around, that's what Steinbeck experienced in the 1960s. Life goes the fuck on. And, people change. And we used to do that in a vacuum, and now we can't. We can't just, let people go anymore and let the baggage fall in the ditch, life's ditch, where it may. Now we've got Timmy Baterman. You remember the scene in Pet Sematary? He's like, oh, he's the guy that in the flashback scene. That's what I think of whenever any of these guys from my teenage years, or like even elementary school, now all of a sudden they want to sit here and act like we're fucking buddies and preach Trump doctrine to me. It's one of the biggest reasons that I got rid of. I wound up just cleaning my friends list completely out. I don't want to deal with those motherfuckers anymore. Go away. Like you said, Rich, sometimes death is better.
The best feature of social media is there is a delete button under your account settings.
Yeah. And you know what? This is something that I think I never experienced this in my life until social media. I have friends who are on my friends list who I have nothing in common with. To be completely brutally honest, I think they're fucking poster children for retroactive birth control. I can't even remember why we became friends, but they're the type of spiteful, petty motherfuckers to where if I unfriended them, they would fucking spend a month going around trying to talk shit to anyone that would listen about how much of a piece of shit I am. But if I just leave them on my list and don't interact with them and unfollow them, they're fine. They're just like, oh, okay. Every once in a while, they'll like something I post or comment on something, and then that's it. And I never respond to these people. I never do. And it's like, this is ridiculous. I have to keep you on a list just to keep you from what? Getting petty and wanting. Because if I unfriend you, somehow that's a personal affront to you. Like, we don't talk. We don't call each other up. We don't text. Yeah. What the fuck do you expect?
Well, that's who Chris got sort of swept up in 3 years ago. Those were the people that I was getting rid of, most of them. You know what I mean? And it started off just getting rid of these. I don't really give a shit about people being petty. I've been, ever since I got into radio, I've had these redneck motherfuckers from Hillsdale. Oh, you're too good to talk to me now, big radio star motherfucker. I've been dealing with that shit for a long time. I'm all right with it. I can deal with that. But I had to start not only getting rid of the people that I targeted that I didn't want anything to do with, but also people they were associated with that I thought they'd try to back channel to get to me. I mean, it really, when you start these purges, it's really fucking weird how they expand, because you've got to really kind of clear that whole fucking network out. Right, and it's one of the reasons that I could never find a balance. I could never find just that nice little balance of just having the people that I wanted in my news feed, because I don't unfollow anybody. I either I am interested in what the fuck you're saying, or you're gone. I don't even bother muting anybody. But when I figured out that there was no balance to strike, because no matter who I had in that list, there was always going to be access through like comments or likes or something where I'm going to be subjected to some really stupid tomfuckery from somebody I don't want to fucking hear from, that I want nothing to do with. And that was eventually, it's like, you know what? This has just got to fucking go. I can't do it. There is no balance to be found.
I've just gotten into the mode where, like I said, I told you the stove is hot, where I don't scroll down anymore. If I scroll down, I have to be like excruciatingly bored. Like,
why the fuck do you have
my
it
plane
then?
is on the tarmac and we're delayed for like a half an hour.
Why do you have
it? So you really want to honestly know why? So I don't have to call my fucking parents every time my plane lands. Like, quite honestly, that is the whole reason.
That's what texting is for.
Dude, no. I sent my dad one text in my lifetime, and it ended with, do not call me, and he called me. All right? Yeah. Dad, you're listening. I love you. But we know that's how it went. All right? I can tell you, I was at a concert at, like, Joe Louis. I remember what was going down.
Hilarious. That is the funniest thing I've heard this week.
Like,
I only have Facebook, so I don't have to call my parents. For real,
if I didn't... well, no, just if... Because my job, if I'd have to... If it's just to give my my folks peace of mind that I made it where I'm going safely. Straight up. So I can check in at the goddamn airport. If it wasn't for that, I would not have Facebook at this point in my life.
I only have it for one reason. One specific reason, and that's Messenger. I like Messenger.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually actively try not to. The rare time where I have to, like... Well, actually, I don't even have to now. The way they have Messenger set up, you can go right to Messenger. You don't even have to open up Facebook and then open up the Messenger inside of it.
Yeah.
But there was a while where I still had to open up Facebook, and I would actively try not to read anything on the page.
Well, you know what you can do? You can deactivate your Facebook account.
Yeah.
And still use Messenger for that deactivated account if you have it on your phone. As long as I've been doing that all along with that. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to be bothered. But the TD profile, Chris, that is 99% of the time. It's open this week because I'm leaving on Saturday and I wanted to connect and share some stuff with you, and I have to do it on the computer. But normally it's shut down, but I can still interact with whoever's in my Messenger on my phone. And it's wonderful. Right. It's so awesome.
I'm completely done with Facebook. So it's kind of two different things that we're talking about when we're talking about social media. There's social media when it comes to people that you've met in real life, and there's social media of the people that you haven't. And I don't know anybody in real life that I follow on Twitter, and I'm not interested in if I meet somebody that like, you should follow me on Twitter, I'm like, why? If I was interested in you on Twitter, I would have found you on Twitter already, right?
Right.
It's not the same thing. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I don't consider Messenger. Have any overlap.
I don't consider Messenger social media. That's a
that's a tool. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not showing your lunch to everybody.
Yeah, and you're not being subjected to random unsolicited opinions and thoughts on every fucking thing in the world that most people haven't even thought about. You know, it's like a reflexive sort of response, a parroting of some sort.
Cat video.
You know, I'm against abortion.
You know, I have to say, I guess I'm pretty lucky that for whatever reason, most of my friends who do engage in like verbal jousting on social media, and that's what it's there for. I mean, I'm not talking shit about them. You go on their page and it's literally just back and forth, arguing with people. And, you know, how every once in a while something will pop up and say so-and-so posted on this thread, and you go to it and then you just see a 50 response back and forth arguing. That's what they do.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. They come to my page, and I had to do this a couple months ago. I posted something. It was just like just a joke, and someone jumped in, and then a friend of someone who I'm not even friends with, but I'm friends with, a person jumped in, and I literally I pulled a Negan. I was like, I will shut that shit down. I will fucking block you. Look, you want to argue, take that shit to your page or take it to Messenger. Don't bring that shit over here.
Do that too to me, and I'll just tell them, go away, troll. Like, I don't fucking know you. Like,
well, yeah,
we
it was one of the. I mean, Chris and I and his cousin back in 2014. I mean, it was one of the last times that I ever commented on anybody else's page. That was the first thing I tried. I'm like, okay, fuck this. After that, I'm never going to comment on anything anybody posts. I'll comment on my shit, and if somebody comments on something I post, I will have the conversation. I will control that motherfucking conversation on my page because it was exactly it. Chris and I got into something. We were discussing something on his page. One of his family members jumped in, and all of a sudden it was like World War III. I'm like, who the fuck are you? You know, and he was probably saying the same thing about me. It wasn't like it was like this random entity appeared that I had to do battle with all of a sudden. You know,
well, what convinced me of this was, and it was right after the 2012 election. I mean, literally like a day or two after it, and a buddy of mine came on my page and posted, and he was an Obama supporter, and he posted something, and I had family, gotta love him. I had a cousin who, outside of being in a band with him for like a year and a half, I really have absolutely nothing in common with, but he's one of those, he's a family member, so it's like, fuck. You know what I'm saying? I feel obligated. I probably shouldn't, but it's just my hang up, whatever. I feel obligated to keep him on my page.
Yeah.
He started going back and forth with my other friend. Now, gun to my head, if I had to choose which one to fucking jettison out of my life, it'd be my cousin quick, fast, in a hurry. But I'd said, you know what? My buddy, he's a big boy. He can handle himself. I shit you zero. They went back and forth on my page for 6 fucking weeks.
Wow, man.
And after like the second week, my buddy just went, look, man, we've met each other in real life. I used to be in a band with Rich. I've met you. I've been to your shows when you guys were in a band together. We had no problem because I posted something that you disagreed with. You've stalked my Facebook page. You stalked my wife's Facebook page. You've drugged my family into this shit. Our jobs into this shit. He's like, just grow the fuck up. And my cousin we're talking like clockwork, 2-3 times a day for like a week after that, just hammering away at him until my friend finally was like, you know what, dude, I've tried to turn the other cheek. Fuck you. And it just went off. And finally, after 6 weeks, I came in. Well, I realized I could do something. I could shut down comments on the post. I didn't realize I could do that until that point because I never had to, never even thought to. And I came in. I was like, look, you two know each other, and you've sat, drank, partied, hung out, never had a problem. I'm done with this shit. You guys want to continue this shit, you got to take it somewhere else. And believe me, I'm shutting the comments off. And, you know, basically I was directing this at my cousin, not my friend, and he knew it. I said, and if you try to fucking bring this to like, personal messages and continue this shit with me involved, I'll just fucking delete your ass and you go fuck yourselves. And my cousin, to his credit, took the hint. And that was the end of it as far as me being involved. I don't know how long they kept beefing, but I mean, 6 weeks, dude. That is fucking
it goes
ridiculous.
Back to what I was saying earlier, though. I mean, these are not the same fucking people that hung out in person. You know, something happens when you get on that platform, and it brings out the absolute worst in a lot of people. It did in me. I can tell you that. And I've seen it repeated over and over. That story is not unique, man. I've seen it 100 times.
Well, my favorite thing was after this recent election, people posting, because you can search like friends who like insert whatever.
Right.
And I had a friend who said, you notice to all my friends on my friends list, you have 7 days from when I post this to unlike Donald Trump, or else I will delete you from my friends list. I know who you are. And I was like, you know what? Let me do you the fucking favor. Click. I don't even like Donald Trump. Fuck you, asshole. Don't threaten me like that. First of all, does your wife use a big veiny dildo when she's pegging your ass? because this is the most impotent motherfucker if that's how you have to exert your power over somebody. Yeah. Your wife must be running trains up your asshole every night, making you suck the shit off her fucking strap-on, and you're loving it. So
that happened a lot, dude. I saw that a lot. If you voted for Trump or you like Trump, get the fuck out of my list. Delete yourself right now so I don't have to do it. And it was all over the place after that election.
I'd seen it once or twice with Obama.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just rampant, and I was like, you know what? That's really, this last election is like, that was. I used to go on surprise, surprise. I used to post long rants about certain subjects. Basically, use Facebook like a blog.
I can't believe anyone would do that.
Yeah, I know, right?
That happens.
Kind of narcissistic asshole wants to think the world wants to read or hear what he's got to say, right?
I personally have never ranted about anything on Facebook.
I know. I've
never read any of those rants.
Dude, I posted 1,500 word rants on Facebook, if you can believe that. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, and after the election, that's basically when I just became like the voyeur, like I said, peeping over the fence, because I was just like, I have no interest in the back and forth, in the hatred that comes with it. And I mean, I've been friends with some of these people, and I'm still friends with them for 20 plus years, and we don't agree on politics. I don't think they're a bad person just because we have different political views. I don't think they're horrible people, and it was once again to bring it right back to the beginning of when we started the show. It's people on either side going, well, wait a minute, you better choose a side. Yeah. I'm your friend. I don't agree with his politics, so you're either with me or against me. And I'm like, okay, W. Yeah. Are you serious right now? So what? He fucking supports Trump. I don't give a fuck. He's an idiot when it comes to politics.
But this is the thing, man. I think that everybody likes to say that I like this guy still because of his politics, and I still consider him a friend and all that. I'm not saying you're making that up. I'm sure that's how you are. But a lot of people aren't. They'll say that. They'll give you that rhetoric and they'll give you that lip service. That we're still friends. But there's something that happens. There is some sort of damage that is done to the friendship. The actual relationship that has of the two human beings, the two organic organisms on each end of the device, something happens to them via this interaction. You don't just call somebody a fucking libtard and have nothing happen to the other person on the other end. And that's the thing that, again, when we can go back to the beginning of the middle or wherever the fuck it was, that's what's happening to us en masse. Nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to say that, yeah, I don't like that person now because of some fight we had on the Matrix, but that is exactly what's happening. Those effects are real on the other end.
I think what saves us, because Chris, I'm talking about my buddy Earl. Me and Chris do a podcast with him. And me and Chris's politics couldn't be farther away from Earl's when it comes to 90% of his views. But here's the thing. He's never gotten disrespectful with me about his views, and I don't get disrespectful with him because I try to show him the same respect he's shown me.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, dude, seriously, does it smell good with your head that far up your ass? I mean, I'll say shit like that, but we've known each other 22 years, dude. We ball bust mercilessly. It's prison.
There's context. There's context there when you say that. Yeah.
He knows I'm not... I don't attack his wife. I don't attack his fucking family. I don't attack his, whatever. And just to be honest with you, I understand why he voted for Trump. He says he's a Trump supporter. I think he's one of those guys that's like, I voted for Trump because fuck it. If this don't work, then let's just blow it up and start over.
With that statement.
A lot of people did. I do too.
He's not down with Trump because he loves his politics. He's down with Trump because fuck everything.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I forgot what I was going to say. I was trying to take it back to the commonality thing. It sounds like that you and your friend, probably for other personality, agreeable reasons, have been able to kind of get through that because there's another sense of commonality there, though. If you're doing a podcast together, I'm assuming it's not about politics. You're probably doing it on something else. So there's something else that you have a sense of community over. You know what I mean? Something bigger than the difference and the divide in politics.
Sports.
And that one of the reasons that I'm really curious to get out and sort of do this human synapse thing next year is that I really want to know if there's anything left that supersedes ideology. You know, because there used to be. I mean, maybe I'm romanticizing a little bit, and maybe I haven't. Yeah, well, something. But maybe I'm over exaggerating in my head what used to be there. But it seems to me when I was younger that there were always political, arguments and differences and things like that. We were Americans. You know, we had this. There was something bigger that was more important than left and right. Republican, Democrat, and we don't have that. We don't have it anymore, man. There is. What is it?
I'm being half facetious. How many religious leaders have been caught up in sex scandals? Fucking supersedes ideology.
I think that we had this idea at one point in this country that part of being an American is the fact that you are going to disagree with other people, and that you can do that in a way that doesn't have to be violent, right? It doesn't have to lead to a guillotine somewhere down the line, right? And that was part of the genius of the system too. We can have peaceful transition of power, right? Right. But we have now these two different factions in this country that have both claimed ownership of what it means to be American, and therefore, if you're against guns, you're anti-American. Right. If you're against gays getting married, you're anti-American. Mm-hmm. You have both sides that can say that are this kind of. I went off on a thought on this. This is like the most political thing that I've ever put on Twitter of my own words, and it was about Captain America. But somebody had posted it was a shot from a Civil War, and it was Captain America talking about how, because part of Civil War is from the comics, and if you saw the Captain America movie, it's where Captain America, it's one of these stories where he has to make this decision whether he's like for his government, or does he decide that the government's gone rogue and that he is ultimately for American ideals, and he has to fight for what he knows is right, even though the government is telling him something different, right? And he makes this speech where he's like, I don't care if, basically, to paraphrase it, it doesn't matter if everybody else in the country is telling him that he's wrong. He knows he's right because he understands what American values mean. And I'm like, that's
to shut up and take it super serious.
That line of thinking has been used to justify so much horrible behavior.
Oh yeah.
Out there. To think that, and usually it's not, down to an individual. It's a group of people. It's not one person saying. I mean, then that's like Unabomber territory.
Right.
When you're talking about one person that nobody else understands, and they're the only ones that are the true Americans, and they can right this country.
Well, yeah. Well, this is where we are, though, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like it's we haven't used the word echo chamber yet. I don't think in this podcast.
Trust me, we have plenty of time for it tonight. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know, but it's again, it comes back to being able to congregate ourselves without leaving the couch. Somehow we've figured the technology has enabled us to congregate into mobs. That's what an echo chamber is. It's a like-thinking mob. okay, where the only people that are allowed into your mob are like thinkers. And then over on the other side, populated with just as many people, is another fucking mob. And this mob is the real Americans. This mob is the righteous one. This one is the one that's been touched by the hand of God. And those guys over there, they're all evil, they're all anti-American, and they are, the invading horde from Barbaria land or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not really hard to go from an opinion. Well, it should be really hard, but apparently it's not an opinion to being, my opinion, and turning that into right and wrong. Okay? My opinion's right, their opinion is wrong. Our mob is right, that mob is wrong. And then to take it a step further, when you're isolated off enough and surrounded by only people that enable this thinking, to turn that into good versus evil. And to turn that into a dehumanize. How hard is it to dehumanize what you see as evil? You see what I mean? That's where we are. That is exactly where we're headed. Again, I'm coming right back to where I started. And that, to me, it would be one thing if this one mob, our mob, was 80% of the population and only 20% over there. Then you know what? We can fine, we'll just steamroll them. They don't really count. But that's not the case. We saw that with the election last year. The country is evenly split. No, there is no mandate. There is no edge on one side or the other. You see what I mean? So no matter who wins an election, you've got the other half of the country. There is no solution here, man. You have got to figure out a way to walk this shit back and find some sense of commonality, something bigger than politics and ideology and these social fucking issues, or else you are going to blow yourselves to bits.
Well, there's one thing, and Chris and I have brought it up at various times over the last couple months. It ain't pretty, but it's worked before. Some type of fucking, I'm not talking no bullshit, Vietnam, Korea, Gulf
asteroid.
War I.
How about an asteroid strike?
Oh, no, I mean, dead serious, like World War II type fucking war.
Well, that's
where it is, we have to fight. We have to. There's no, it's not we're over there for corporate interests. We're not over there to get control of poppy fields. We're not over there for bullshit reasons. It's, they're coming and they're going to invade the East and West Coast, or we take the fight to them, and it's a fight for survival. There's only going to be one standing at the end.
I honestly, the one thing, I completely agree with where you're headed with that psychologically, but I think the way that I've looked at it is I look at like global warming, and maybe
I was just going to go there.
Yeah, because some sort of like natural cataclysm, like an asteroid strike, or the sea level suddenly rise by 8 feet, or the West Coast falls into the ocean when San Andreas breaks. Something down that line where people have got to be able to look at each other as human beings again and understand that they are in the fight for they are sharing a common human experience. The human experience is the commonality, and survival is much more important than all of this other bullshit. That is the one thing, the only thing, aside from my little nugget and my little sliver of human synaptic hope that I'm hoping to find next year. It's the one thing that I think is the only thing that can happen, that can actually walk this back.
What's scary is by the time that gets to that point, we're well past the tipping point. At that point, it's damage control. It's not prevention. And then the finger pointing inevitably will start. Yeah. Because everyone who is going, look at what we're doing to the climate. We're forcing thousands of years of climate change into decades, into years. And we tried to tell you, and you wouldn't listen to us. And we all know how well gloating works as far as getting someone to come over to your side. I'm with you, and I believe me, the very idea of a World War II scale war being fought by the tail end of millennials and the beginning of whatever generation name they end up with coming after them scares the shit out of me. Because I don't think we have the people anymore in our society that will go, sometimes you got to sacrifice yourself for your people down the line.
No. Hell, fuck no. Everybody gets a participation trophy for sticking a thumb up their ass now. You don't sacrifice anything anymore. You don't have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of, I can't think of it, but you don't have to, everybody has to accommodate you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, you look back at just those first guys that hit the beach in Normandy. They had no delusions about their chances for survival, but they knew if they weren't the tip of that spear.
There was something bigger than themselves.
And if they didn't do that, then ultimately the people behind them were even more fucked than they were, and eventually it would come to our shores. It would be on our land. And I don't think people are capable, for the most part. When I say people, I'm talking the vast majority. Yeah, even people in our generation, Generation X, I don't think we're capable of thinking that way anymore.
No. Hold that thought for a second. I want to add something to that, but I really have to hit the restroom. Do me a favor, though. Remember the word suppression, so I can hold this in my head, okay?
Okay.
All right. Suppression. I think
silencer?
I think we're going to make that the final word.
The what? Oh, okay. All right.
It's about that time.
3.5 in. Supersized.
I mean, I know we're going to end up cutting some off the beginning, but I don't. We kind of jumped into it. Yeah, we really went head first. Didn't even see how deep the water was. We just started going. Nice. This is going to be one of those old school episodes where the intro comes in or the intro starts, and then it sounds like you're picking up on a conversation.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do an intro to let the listener know what's going on, because I don't want to just throw them into a conversation, especially when Todd's back after 3 years. Might be a little confusing.
Jay sounds awfully different.
If you'd also take that part in the middle about me and Mandy fighting out, that'd be super cool.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. That's... I gotcha.
No, we're going to leave it in, and we're going to isolate that part and send it to her, because we really don't like doing any of these shows with you, Chris. We're miserable.
He's just going to be like, hey, so last night, huh? Yeah. Whoops. That's how it's going to be for like...
See, I thought you got lost in the Bermuda Triangle.
That's how it's going to be for both of us, man. It's going to be like, yeah, so drank since 2.
I've flown over the Bermuda Triangle.
And then my brother-in-law is feeding her like this crazy drink made with like, it tastes like Kool-Aid made with vodka.
I meant the one from... Oh shit, what was the word we were supposed to remember?
Suppression.
Everyone remember by you.
I suppressed it. I must have suppressed that
one. That's how well you internalized it.
That means he's better at than us.
Sorry. It's all right. I'm about ready to burn it into your brain. Are we ready?
Okay, yeah. So final word for the night is suppression.
Suppression, yeah. So here's one thing that I've never had anybody answer for me, and it kind of ties into something else we were talking about earlier. When we're looking for political solutions, everybody thinks that their side is the answer, right? So I'm going to sort of assume that we both or all agree that both of these mobs are equally populated. Pretty close, right?
Yeah. Seems relatively evenly matched.
Okay, so let's say that the liberal messiah comes in 2020 and is elected. What do you plan to do about the other half of the country? Do you think that they're just going to roll over suddenly, magically, and say, gee, St. Bernie won the election. It's time for us to get on board with this socialist agenda. Do you think that's going to happen?
No.
What do you think is going to happen?
Deplorables.
I mean, it's if you look at the last 10 or 15 years, maybe the last 20 years, it's just going to push them further towards the edge. Correct?
Oh, this is going to be a super Trump? Is that where you're going with this?
That's exactly where I'm going
Bannon?
with it. And
because I think we're past the point where they can just go back to being disenfranchised.
So what do you propose to do about that? You know, I'm not asking you specifically, Aaron. This is the question.
I hear you.
Never get an answer. I've never gotten an answer to this. What do you propose to do about the other half of the country? Because you're getting to the point now where you're getting so extreme, and you're both sides, right? That you've got to start thinking almost in terms of like these Stalin-esque sort of political purges, because you have got to get people under control at some point, or you're going to be involved in a civil war.
Okay, so you know what this makes me think of? Recently in the recent elections.
Yeah.
It was, my memory is going to fail me on this one, but what was the state where it was a transgendered female that won against the...
Virginia?
It was Virginia.
Yeah,
I think.
Virginia. Okay, yeah. That's right.
No, it was North Carolina.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, she took out the bathroom bill guy.
Yeah. Right, she took out the guy who wrote the bathroom bill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was very significant, right? And she was asked about this on the news. And this was a perfect time for, I mean, look, none of us knew who the fuck this person was, you know? And the only reason that anybody else outside of Virginia was following this is because we thought it was going to reflect somehow on future elections.
Right.
And how that would go, right? Mm-hmm. And it would give us some guidance in these dark Trump waters that we find hard to navigate, right?
Right.
So, this was a perfect opportunity for this person that now has this national platform looking at her and, here's your message. What do you want it to be? So, you took out the bathroom bill guy. How does that feel? And what does she say? I'm not going to say anything bad about the guy because he's my constituent now.
It's awesome.
He did not get into office. I now have to represent him.
Right.
And that was like the perfect thing to say when it would seem like so many other politicians would take that opportunity to talk about the bathroom bill and what this meant and why. And
right.
And well, you know, not outright say that, but essentially, throw their head on the pike. You know,
sure,
hoist their body up at the edge of town to make sure everybody knows where you stand on this issue.
Sure.
Yep.
Most people would.
Look, there is no clear answer to what do you do with those people. Like when all these people that are supporting Trump now, if we impeach him,
same thing.
What happens with them? It is the same thing. Like, what do? You accept that you have to represent the whole country. And if
Who's doing that? Who's doing that?
Nobody.
It sure isn't.
We don't have that politician on a national level, and I don't know if we're at the point where we would recognize and elect a person with that mentality on a national level.
They'd never get nominated.
Right.
You could not run a primary. I guess it's a primary. I'm losing my facilities here, but you could never run like the Hillary Bernie thing from last year, whatever that primary.
Yeah. The primary.
You're
right.
You could never run that way now, trying to be a centrist. A centrist cannot exist. It will not get the oxygen to breathe anymore. So again, I come back to it. How do you propose? You have to suppress the other half of the country at some point, because it's going to get to the point where both of these extremes have become so radicalized and so far apart from each other, and they are going to become the mainstream. The fringes are becoming the mainstream. Democrats, they've already become the mainstream Republicans. It is Trump's party. And this reminds me of one thing, and I want to point this out because you guys were talking about Jeff Flake, I think either in the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, and you were asking, one of the questions you guys asked was, is this Trump's party? And I was basically yelling at my computer, of course it's Trump's party. The fact that Jeff Flake is not running for re-election and has dropped out proves it, because he cannot get elected. He cannot breathe in the Republican Party in Arizona today. He will not get reelected, and he knows it. Bob Corker was the same way. The reason he's getting out of it is because he knows that the party, the base, has moved so far to the right that he will not stand a chance to get reelected, and he's not going to waste the money or the time to do it. So what's going to fill that vacuum? You see? So that's the indication to me. Anyway, when I saw those two things happening, you ask whose party is Trump? Is it really Trump's party? Well, yeah. And it's going to get worse. It's the recent pattern.
This is what becomes the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, I think so. What do you've got to figure that out. Just to finish my point, you've got to finish this out. And the same thing happens if Trump gets reelected. What do they propose to do about the other half of the country that's liberal and sees him as an evil fascist? You've got at some point, it's going to come to the point where you have to start suppressing the other half. And it's the half of the fucking country. How do you do that?
And it's not a popular theory that when I say this in polite circles, but I think we are now starting to realize that just because we declared the Civil War over in the late 1800s, it's never really went away. It's just turned into it turned into culture wars. It turned into wars in the media, et cetera, et cetera. We've been at each other's throats pretty much consistently since then, and we've self-segregated ourselves from. We use code words: city, urban, rural. What's that mean? Well, urban means pretty much black, minorities, a mix of people. All right, rural pretty much means white, away from cities, et cetera. And I don't know that there is an answer besides there's going to be two Americas. And I don't think the Mason-Dixon line is going to be the dividing line this time. It's going to just be
poverty line.
No, it's not going to be anything to do with poverty.
I would. Hey, I mean, if we're going to fucking if it's time to grab pitchforks and torches, I'd rather it be over, the disparity in growth and income and inequality.
Well, you can unite people over that.
Well, you could.
I think if you want to understand this,
go ahead, Aaron.
I think if you want to understand this problem, you have to understand that it's not an American problem. I mean, what you're really talking about is humans are expanding this idea collectively of human rights and what that means and what rights any individual human should expect. We are continually expanding that, and the antithesis of that is tradition. And it has to be, because traditions are ingrained with our concept of what our rights were as individuals at the time. And they have to be those traditions have to be deconstructed in order to accept new concepts of human rights. Our new human rights that we talk about having fucking internet as a basic human right.
Right.
Something that didn't even exist in the past.
Yeah. Well,
that is now necessary for a happy or just livable life in this country or in this world, right? So it's not that you can solve this divide in this country. I think you have to figure out how do you govern knowing the fact that's going to be an eternal struggle. Human rights is always going to be looked at as progress, and that's not always a good thing, especially for people who live their lives based on the traditions of the past, who structure their ideas of safety and how to operate in the world and what the world means, and give some meaning to something that seems completely chaotic if you take that away from people. Whether it's it doesn't have to be like a major religious structure. It's just, how things are. That's the way I grew up and the way I'm going to be, right? That's a comfortable life to live.
See, I agree with you that it's not uniquely American. I just think we're going to end up with some sort of version of what we've seen other countries have to do in the past.
Which ones?
I mean, Northern Ireland versus Ireland.
That was religious. That was Catholic Protestant. That wasn't really a racial thing.
North Korea versus South. Well, I'm not necessarily saying a racial thing, but it's going to be ideologues driving this shit, and for at least the foreseeable future, it seems like identity politics is the new playbook that both sides are going to. It's the hot new formation, like the Wildcat was in football a few years ago. It's the shift in baseball. It's the new thing to do.
Yeah.
It's pitch counts. It's starting pitchers only pitch so much, then you bring in your relievers. It's what we're all doing.
It's filleting the ego, is what it is. It's the perfect political marketing tool.
Exactly.
Right, and it's the tribalism that we were talking about at the top of the show. It's the concept when we jump online, we didn't all enter one world. We just found different ways to separate that world into different tribes. It doesn't have to be based on my neighbor. It can be based on ideologies purely.
So when I hear liberals talk, especially the Bernie-crats, and they start talking about identity politics, and then out of the other side of their mouth they talk about unity. What I'm hearing is unity by division. How the fuck does that work?
Unity is something to achieve once we can all agree on everything.
Yeah.
It's an ideal to strive for.
Hold on for a second. Unity is something we can all agree on. What?
Oh, I said unity is an ideal to achieve someday once we can all agree on everything.
So unity is an ideal to achieve once we can agree on how we're going to divide ourselves up properly.
Right, yes. I guess so. Because the other side of divide is conquer, right?
Well, I mean, maybe we just have to accept the fact that there's never going to be any type of unity, period, with everybody.
United we stand.
I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, we've said
the
this
only thing that
times.
can change that, aliens. And
haven't you seen Alien?
Fucking dead serious, though.
I am too. No, I fucking totally agree with you. I completely agree with you.
Like if we can apply, if we can detect
meme right now with that guy, man,
something that is alive outside our solar system that we can accept has some sort of intelligence, that we can identify, that it looks enough like us or acts enough like us that we can go, oh my god, it's fucking cute, or it's weird, or it's
wants to eat us.
Or, just anything. It's going to change the way that we divide ourselves up. I mean, look at, the only way that we're going to get to Star Trek is when we meet Klingons. We're not going to get to Star Trek first and then meet the Klingons.
The thing is that if we don't meet the Klingons soon, we're going to be at the road. We're not going to ever get to Star Trek.
I still want that to be a movie now, too. Like Ben Stiller in space, meet the Klingons.
That'd be nice. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I ask you, Aaron. I mean, I know I appreciate the fact that there is an optimist on here, because I think that if it were just Chris and Rich and it would be this really negative circle jerk thing, and we'd all be, wanting to kill kittens and pandas at the end of the show. I ask you though, and I'm looking for this. I'm not saying this hyperbolically. I mean it. Mm-hmm. I am looking for any indication of hope that there is something, that some way, some mechanism that's in place, not aliens, okay, and not an asteroid hitting, where it's possible to start finding some sense of commonality, higher commonality beyond ideology, and where we can start walking this back. Because if we don't, and it terrifies the living. I have a place to go in the Andes Mountains, my friends. I've been there. I'm going there again. And I have a place I can get the fuck out of here. Most people don't. This terrifies the shit out of me. And I have a track record. I will send you the link here, and I've sent it to these guys. I'll send you that fucking podcast that I did in 2014. I am like Todd Stradamus sometimes.
There you go.
I'm telling you. I predicted Trump in 2009. I can send you the link. I trust my guts on these things. And I'm not saying that to be funny now. I really, honestly, I'm looking for any indication at all that I'm wrong, and I can't find it.
Yeah, well.
So is that the happy note we're going out on, since we always go out on downers? Because, dude, we go, even when we try to go out happy, I usually end up shitting on that fucking kitten, and it's like, oh well, that's dead. I guess that's the thought to go out on.
Next week.
Hey, Lions played a great game. God damn it! No, they didn't. I did watch the Lions today. Thanksgiving Day here in northern Massachusetts.
Your time.
And holy shit, my girlfriend is just like, they still suck.
It's not new. It's not
terrible.
Neighborhood.
Here we go. We haven't talked baseball. Justin Verlander got his World Series ring. There's an up note.
Merry Christmas, dude.
Yeah, that's a good point. He didn't even go to the fucking parade. He took her to Italy.
And then he tweeted he just bought some kind of Lamborghini the other day.
I hate that motherfucker so much. See, we have to. It's just negativity.
See, Twitter. Yeah, Twitter brought the negativity. Tweeting out a Lamborghini.
We're going to wrap it up here.
Yeah. It's like
I think it is good.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
I figured I have to work tomorrow, so yay.
Todd, thanks for joining us. It was really great to hear from you again.
Yeah, cool, man. I have this trip coming up. I think I told all you guys I'm flying to Colombia on Saturday. Maybe down the road a little bit, if I can find a little piece of little sunshine that I can pull out of my asshole at some point, because I tend to turn into a more positive human being when I'm traveling. I'm really looking forward to this. I'll have my phone with me. Maybe we can do like a little follow-up or something down the road.
Yeah, check in with us, please.
Yeah, because I can do that from, hostels have Wi-Fi, and I think most of them will handle Skype pretty well. I've done Skype
teenagers are going
a number of
need
times from down there.
Man. American teenagers are going to need Wi-Fi taking their gap year in the hostel, man.
Oh, Jesus. That's one thing that we didn't get to on this with the social media thing. When I first went down there, I went down to Mexico in 2011. Now, this is smartphones weren't quite what they are now, but they were around. Now, when you go to these hostels, and you used to go to the common areas, they all have like an area where everybody hangs out and bonds and tries to fuck. You would sit there and you would actually be able to have a conversation with people. Now, the last couple of times that I've been down there, nobody is talking to each other. They're all sitting there looking at their fucking screens rather than trying to fuck each other. It's really fucking weird how that happened. These are like the enlightened and evolved Europeans. It's fucking strange how all this fucking technology is affecting people.
Blue light's opiate for the masses, man.
Yeah, it is, dude.
That's what?
The truth. So you're gonna try to upload. You're gonna do. I assume this is one podcast.
Yeah.
All right. You're gonna try to upload on Saturday, right?
No try. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it'll be up.
No try. Do.
You're like Yoda, son.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm going to be in Cartagena by, I think our flight gets there at 1:45. So what time do you usually have this up?
Afternoon.
Okay. I will grab some cheap Colombian beer, some cheap Colombian cigarettes, and I will plan on sitting in that hostel listening to this work of art.
Easy there.
Work of art.
It's almost 4 it's almost 4 hours, and
night.
Aaron's got to sort through and cut shit out. Afternoon.
Can I ask you one more question? How the fuck do you do this? How do you get all of this audio into one file?
Compression?
No, I mean, how do you I can't even picture how you're getting like my feed. Are you all in the same room? You're not, are you?
No, we're all in different
we're
places.
In 4 different locations.
It's
how are you getting this into one program?
It's the Skype-topus is what I call it. It involves 3 different registrations on Skype and a registration fix that allows me to open up multiple copies of it at once. that I can then route the audio through the internal sound card. And then there's a whole series of monitoring so that we can actually hear each other that involves physical outputs and inputs on the sound card, where I have to run a channel out into an input on itself, making sure that I mute it so that I don't get feedback. And,
Jesus.
It took quite a bit of research to do it this way. This allows me to have everybody on their separate track, which is why I asked you to call back in and not just have you on Rich's track.
Yeah,
that way I can process the levels and EQ separately. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
I'm impressed, dude. I have never...
That's the short answer.
Yeah, I can't even... I have this Mac, and I cannot get it... I can't even figure out how to get it to record off of like a YouTube... You record audio off of like a YouTube video. You still do it on PC.
What is that called? I forget.
Yeah, what's the program that I steered you to, Chris? I can't remember what it was.
Like months ago.
It's it allows you to... Soundflower, yes, is a free program that allows you to route audio through the Mac. So basically, any application to application internally.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck! I wish I would have had that a long time ago.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. But I was. That's
really what I would have been using. I wouldn't have to do these crazy input and output loops with the sound card if they had something that worked that well for PC, or if I had a Mac.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's an incredible. I mean, you talk about you want to go out on a high note. I know you're probably going to cut all this, but I mean, this is a really wonderful thing. If we're all in 4 fucking rooms, and I'm sitting in Massachusetts, and you guys are at your own houses, and we're able to do this. This is fucking. That's pretty fucking remarkable.
Goes down. That's why we call him the doctor.
Jesus Christ! Well, props, man. I couldn't do it.
What's your Juggalo name again? Dr.
What was it?
My Juggalo name? Were you talking about Dr. Mountandu?
No. The doctor from that Juggalo News Network thing. And you were like,
the one I really liked.
Oh, shit. I forget.
I'm going to start calling myself that.
Oh, damn it. I'll have to go back and look it up.
It'd make like a good DJ name.
It would, too.
ICP related, something awful, something horrendous.
What?
It was.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Dr. Stretch Nuts Stink. I don't know. Fuck it.
Yeah, I think you're chasing down the right rabbit there, Rich.
This is. I feel really like punch drunk.
Yeah.
My brain is just
drunk.
like fucking fried at this point.
Yeah.
This is fucking great.
This might be the first podcast we've done with these two, Todd, where we're the most sober ones.
That's a good point.
No, I can tell you this. It's the first podcast I've done with you guys sober.
There you go.
Because I think I did one on my couch back in Chicago, like this. But I was pretty lit up. I think I had like a 6-pack of Blue Moon, and the ones we did at your place. I know we were drinking that.
The lost episodes.
The what?
The lost episodes. When we die, we'll release them.
It's one episode that I was just like, it was literally the first 10 minutes was just all of us yelling at the same time.
Yeah, that was.
Even Aaron was drunk.
It was like, you can't, it was like, none of this is discernible. This is just like releasing an argument.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. Wow, yeah. Good God.
It's like if you just mic'd the audience in a Card Shark episode.
I think this one went much better.
Showed up 45 minutes late.
I would hope we got better in 3 years. If not, Jesus Christ, what are we doing? Right?
Yeah. I'm really curious to see how this comes out, though, man. I really am, and I'll let you guys go here. I got to get up here in the morning, and I have to start packing and shit. I'm actually going to be at the airport.
We get it.
24 hours.
You're going to Columbia.
Everything done. Yeah, I'm telling myself this. I can't believe I'm leaving today. It's more for my own benefit than yours. But no, I meant what I said earlier, though, guys. I hope you guys, continue down that path that I was talking about earlier. And you guys have really,
we have no plans on stopping.
Yeah, you guys have a really good thing going, and I mean that. I'm not
in the world insane.
Yeah, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, and I'm not trying to get anything out of you. I really mean it, and I don't give that compliment out very often.
Every time we think we're
out by now, so.
Every time we think we're out, the world pulls us back in.
Yeah.
We're like fucking Batman.
Well, good, man. Keep it up. Keep up the good fight, and I wish you the best of luck with it. And
wait a minute. Aren't you going to say goodbye to the audience? We got to do the sign off.
By the way, come back on anytime.
All right, we'll wrap it up then.
Chris, go with your ramble.
It's a holiday. We'll give comments a break. Just follow us on Twitter at @regimentedpod. Email us at regimented@christophermedia.net.
And thanks once again, Todd. Thanks for sitting in with us. We do appreciate it, man.
I love you guys.
Yeah, check in.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear more.
All right.
Okay.
I will do that.
Later, guys.
It's going to be, by the way, just so you guys know, it'll be 88 degrees in Cartagena on Saturday.
Oh, well, fuck off then. I don't want to hear from you.
We have to leave on negativity.
Call me in the springtime.
We'll do it. Good talking to you guys.
Later.
Bye.
If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook by searching for Christopher Media. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Thank you in advance for supporting Christopher Media by clicking on the PayPal button and by clicking through to all the sponsors who support ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. And thank you for listening. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Progressive presents The Sounds of the Old World. The year is 2019, and someone is getting up to use the bathroom at the stadium.
Excuse me? Excuse me? Oh, sorry. Excuse me? You mind if I just squeeze by here?
This has been The Sounds of the Old World. Brought to you by Progressive, where drivers can still switch and save like it's 2019.
Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Once upon a time in a convenience store, a woman asked, which zero-calorie drink will I like more? The cashier said, I have a thought. Coke Zero Sugar always hits the spot. The taste made her heart fill with laughter, and with her Coke Zero Sugar, she lived happily ever after. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Unbelievably delicious.
No trip to the store is complete without the unbelievably delicious zero-calorie taste of Coke Zero Sugar. Pick some up at Stop and Shop today.